This girl asked me to save her life. I looked at her coldly and showed my magic circle on my wrist so she would know that I am a mage. Then she could only look shocked when I used my fire magic and made her turn into a torch. Earlier today, the slave merchant tossed a bucket of cold water at me. I shouldn't have been sleeping when new buyers were about to arrive. He hit me right in the face because I was giving him a dirty look. I could only wait for the people who might buy me. This group of adventurers chose me. This was my chance. It was the common habit of adventurers to take bait into the portals. Monsters are unpredictable and terrible creatures, and using slaves to attract and defeat them is an excellent strategy. They went to the entrance, then the leader marked it with the knife. They will be the first to enter. The treasures here have not been explored by anyone yet. We entered the portal. Inside, the world is different. The plants are giant, and while they hold me by the chains, I can't stop thinking about the size of the monsters. They said they were experienced, but they didn't notice a creature approaching. The girl was the first victim. Everyone looked startled. How did it get here without them noticing? They didn't have a chance to use me as bait yet. The group leader faced the monsters while yelling for his friend to tie up the slaves as bait. This fatty intimidated the other slave, and then they ran. They thought they had managed to escape, but then a monster reached them and buried the fatty in the ground. The leader was caught by the tongue of another monster and suffered the same fate as his friend. The red-haired boy saw me approaching and had hope of surviving. He begged for my help, but soon he realized that I wouldn't do anything. Furiously, he shouted, asking why a slave wouldn't obey his owner. I am not weak. Facing these creatures is not impossible for me. I took the mage's staff from one of them and the magic ring from another. The monsters attacked me from all sides. Then with fire magic, I eliminated everyone who approached. A fire mage is invincible in a long-range battle. The battle was long, but soon all the monsters were defeated around me. The girl was the last survivor and begged me to take her out of the portal too and save her life. My anger must have been visible on my face. I cannot stand those who use slaves, so I did to her what they wanted to do to me before. When I left the portal and returned to the city, people were startled. Why is a slave walking alone through the city? I couldn't simply run away. I need to get rid of these chains that bind me. What no one knows about me is that I remember my past life, when the last and most powerful adventurers died fighting the legendary dragons Gornthale. I was the last survivor of the great heroes, the last adventurer El Palm. I fought until the end with every fiber of my body, but not all my power could win alone against this calamity. I trembled with frustration when I saw my allies die. My girl was eliminated in front of me. This is too frustrating. Perhaps my hatred, as great as the infinite, brought me back, because I surely died in that last attack. But I woke up in that slave prison 6 years in the past. Soon the news about me reached the Chief Lord Abbas. His employee warned that the slave returned without any scratches, and this was uncommon, as the bait is the first to die. Abbas found this very strange. How did all the adventurers die and he survived? People use this strategy to attract monsters, and if the group dies, the slave also dies in there. Furthermore, a slave will always be a slave unless he pays his debt or dies. The man then told something more to Abbas. The slave possesses a magic circle. This is terrible in Abbas's eyes. Every slave will have negative feelings toward the merchant union, so someone like that being freed is a risk. Then the next part of the report made Abbas's jaw drop, as the slave came to register as an adventurer. Abbas jumped over the table when he heard that Lord Rakan himself was involved in the matter. If a high-ranking executive is showing interest in this slave, then this is very serious. When the employee left, Abbas reflected on how things work. Slaves are those who have debts with the Gafor market. If you fail to pay your debt on time, you will be forced to become a slave. That boy, he is a slave because his parents had a debt and didn't pay because they died of a disease. His parents bought the black moss on credit, so when the merchant union raised the price multiple times, the debt became 10,000 meso, our currency. El Palm was accused of not paying his parents' debt and became a slave to work until he paid the enormous debt. Now a person with so many reasons to hate the Gafor market was here. Palm sat in the office to negotiate. He knows that the man in front of him is Abbas, Rakan's left-hand man. The bearded man casually said that he accepts changing the contract from slave to F-rank adventurer. Palm smiled, then said he needs to be E-rank. Abbas stated that only very experienced people can be E-rank. A slave has no experience whatsoever. Palm then said that in 3 years he was bait dozens of times, and since the greatest virtue of an explorer is survival, his being alive proves his worth. Not even Abbas could deny this, and looking at the boy he had a strange feeling. Then he proposed a test. If Palm accepts joining a group for a portal that has a limit of 5 people and already has 12 markers from groups that entered and died in there, Palm will prove his worth. The next day, Palm met the group of 4 experienced adventurers who were going to undertake this mission. The tank of the group introduced himself and said that all the others are strong. Our boy was a slave for a few years adventures until he recovered his memory of a previous life. So, in the group's eyes, he was an innocent and inexperienced person. Their mission is to enter the portal to retrieve the items from the other 12 groups that entered and died, so the reward depends on that. Inside, they think the environment is depressing. It's better to set up a camp first before exploring the place, and it's better to be up in the trees. Since Palm is a newcomer, he can rest. The white-haired guy says setting up camp is his specialty, and his friends. After a while, they set up a great camp. They are going to split into 2 groups. The first will be Tom, Max, and Roa. Group 2 will be Chev and Palm. Then each group went in one direction. If anything happens, they must return to the base. Chev found nothing on his way, so he comments that he heard about Palm being a slave and invites him to join the group, as he was touched by Palm's story. Our MC didn't pay attention and focused his attention on this footprint. Later, they returned to the camp and found nothing, so they just ate and rested. Palm had his drink, and when night came, the group went to where he was sleeping. Chev called out to him to confirm if he was sleeping. Then his friend asked what the captain was doing. Of course, he is knocked out. They mixed sleeping pills into the food and drink they gave to Palm. If they eliminate the slave, the reward for 5 people will be divided among just them 4. He raises his arm, lifts a dagger, and gets ready for business. The blade descends precisely, heading toward the lying body. Tom questions what happened, tries to figure out the situation, but he looks under the blanket and yells that Palm is just gone. Chev's group reacts with surprise. They don't get how that was possible. Chev orders a search, tells his men to find him. After all, he couldn't have gone far. Suddenly, a massive explosion rocks the vicinity. Palm watches from afar, seeing their supply depot go up in flames. Chev realizes who's behind it immediately and tells everyone to grab the food and items. Max points at something and asks the boss, "What's going on?" A massive, slimy creature appears before them, taking shape. Chev realizes the chaos and understands Palm is to blame for all of it. He gets the plan, recognizing they were used as bait to lure the monster. Tom is thrown far away, flying after the creature's impact. The slimy monster charges the group of adventurers, pressing them while Palm watches from a distance. He declares his indignation, saying this is ridiculous. They shouldn't have been so nice if they wanted to trick him. After all, he comments they accepted him as bait in a portal where 12 groups of veteran adventurers had already failed. Palm confirms his suspicions, stating that the boss of that area was indeed that monster, exactly as he expected. Chev sprints through the area, realizing that kind of creature puts them at a total disadvantage. Max questions the boss, asking about the monster's identity, and he replies his guess is it's a gold slime. He explains the context, mentioning it's a rare boss that only appears in red portals, something uncommon in Maple World. That thing's body is entirely acidic, making it the worst possible enemy for melee adventurers like them. Max yells for Chev to dodge and shoves him away from the monster's attack. Chev turns in shock, asking, "What was that?" Chev realizes the threat and notes the monster also has long-range attacks. Max panics as he understands the hit, recognizing that acid arrow allows it to shoot acid from its own body. Chev tells everyone to pull themselves together, ordering a retreat, because the ability should have a 1-minute cooldown. Tom is hidden and realizes the monster's ability has entered cooldown. He runs to Max, yelling, "There's still time!" He charges with his blade, ordering, "Leave the monster to me," but Chev tries to stop him, saying they need to attack together. The creature attacks again and repels Tom's advance. Max watches the scene, wondering what just happened. He states the logic, saying there should still be 10 seconds left on the cooldown. Then the creature fires its long-range attack once more. Palm stares at the now immobilized monster, commenting that it looks like it's all over. He reflects on it, admitting Chev's words weren't wrong. A gold slime strengthens itself with the items it consumes and reduces its ability cooldown. He understands the situation, realizing why previous groups failed due to its abnormal size and the almost non-existent cooldown of acid arrow. The monster has already grown to reach the level of a yellow portal, so it's not something a first circle adventurer can face. Palm is certain there are no more items left in the dungeon and declares the mission a failure. He flashes back, remembering Abbas holding a scroll and challenging him to prove it. He just cracks a slight smile and goes with it. The gooey creature turns towards the newcomer, blocking its focus. The slime monster gets a direct hit, taking the full impact of an attack. Palm watches from afar, wondering if, thanks to its maxed-out resistance, his direct hit to the core did absolutely nothing. He sizes up the situation, figuring he'll need to land at least 5 more shots, but he just brushes it off, saying it doesn't matter. With a grin, he declares he's just gonna prove him wrong. He needs to hit the exact same spot, no room for error, so he takes on a challenge a regular mage wouldn't even think about. But he's not just any mage, he's the best telekinetic to ever step foot in this world, one of the titles he rocked in his past life. He fires off a fire arrow, sending the attack straight at the monster. The creature quickly swerves, showing off insane speed for its size. But he just declares it useless and preps another attack. The projectile nails its target dead on, causing an explosion. A core reveals itself in the center of its body, exposed. Palm leaps towards the vulnerable spot, charging in. He gets ready for the final blow, focusing all his strength, but he doesn't notice the slime launching a counterattack. With a smile on his face, Palm gears up to finish the attack. He launches the fire arrow and unleashes the shot. Then he pulls the string, transforms the tip into a massive spear, and hurls it. Palm uses the momentum to latch onto a tree, then keeps his eyes locked on the target, following its movement. The monster completely unravels, its body giving way. Smoke dissipates into the air, revealing an empty battlefield. Palm touches down, landing amidst the wreckage. Suddenly, Palm notices something approaching. The monster's core floats smoothly, heading straight for his outstretched hand. He grasps the item, his fingers closing around it. The absorption process begins, energy flooding into his body. Palm conjures a protective barrier, raising defenses around himself. In a different room, Palm sits at a table with a man and simply says, "I'm back." The eye patch-wearing man stares at him in silence, remaining across the table. He dryly comments that Palm wasn't just showing off, but Abbas questions why Palm returned alone and without the item. Palm replies that the group's amateur hunters plotted to steal his items. He explains what went down. Palm moved away to avoid them. Then they ran into the boss and, by all accounts, bit the dust. Abbas cautiously asks, did they die to the monster? Palm spills the truth. It was a gold slime. And the man quickly gets that, being that kind of thing, all the items inside the portal melted down. He fumes, imagining the loss, admitting the items rented from the merchant guild were destroyed, declaring it an unforgettable loss. But then the problem is this guy came back alive. There are a few common rules for portals. The first is the limited number of people who can enter. The second rule explains that there are entry limitations based on difficulty level and circle level. And the third rule states you can only use the portal once because it's destroyed if someone survives and exits. The man understands the situation, concluding the portal is already a lost cause and that only Palm made it out alive. Let's be real. He decides that regardless of the reason, the fact is Palm failed. Palm calls him impatient and says he's not finished explaining yet. He clenches his fist and mentions the gold slime. The eye patch-wearing man stutters in denial, and then it clicks for him what happened. With a grin, Palm reveals, "I ate the monster's core." The man shouts in shock. He absorbed the gold slime's mana stone and reached 2 circles. He declares that's proof enough, making a point of it as Palm asks for his promised E rank, but Abbas cuts him off, immediately offering D rank instead, leaving Palm completely stunned. Abbas leans over the table and yells, "I'll give you D rank, and if you work for me, you'll be treated like a C rank adventurer." Palm signs the contract, formalizing the agreement. Abbas reflects on this, thinking that normally, giving C rank to someone not even at the first circle is preferential treatment. After all, he remembers adventurer ranks are heavily influenced by circles, which symbolize each person's power. Abbas concludes his analysis, deeming that Bastard isn't normal because you can't just climb circles by absorbing a mana stone. He recalls Palm's phrase, thinking of the moment he said it was just survival instincts. Abbas smirks at the idea. He pictures someone who barely became a first circle mage, absolutely demolishing a second circle one. Now that shows gigantic potential for growth. With a greedy glint in his eye, Abbas decides he needs him. Palm catches the vibe, noticing his treatment improved faster than he expected and that the guy seems pretty impatient. Meanwhile, a portal opens elsewhere, signaling that something big is about to drop. They prepare to act. The first portal raid, made up of 100 red rank members, is about to kick off. With that, the first major event that Garmot's merchant union and the guilds have been waiting for will finally begin. Palm states there's no problem, saying he's also in a hurry, and that it's a good idea to move their plans forward. He turns to Abbas and declares he needs a favor. Abbas replies, "Just say the word." With an outstretched hand, Palm asks, "Lend me some money." Abbas lights his cigar and mulls over the request. He thinks about the nerve and concludes that Bastard is already going too far. Some say the portal era began with adventurers, but it was a trap set by the Black Mage, who killed many in the portals and destroyed Maple World's future potential. Then the remaining monsters grew stronger, which is why they lost. Maple World's doom was approaching in exactly 3 years. Abbas watches from the window as Palm then leaves the grand building, walking toward the exit. He pockets the money, acknowledging that while it's not enough, it's a good start. After all, the red level portal, the one for 100, only allows entry to those with 2 circles. The Garmot Merchant Union is investing in him precisely because they're targeting that portal. Spending all the money on items would be dumb right now, because ones at his level are super expensive. Palm walks down the street and heads straight for an entrance. He enters the establishment and looks around. A man greets Palm cordially, welcoming him to the Lith slave market and offering to guide him. The seller, very casually, asks what kind of companion he's looking for, like a mechanic or warrior. Palm calmly replies that he has someone specific in mind and asks the man to lead the way. The seller gets confused, not quite getting Palm's game. He guides Palm through the punishment field, leading him to a place reserved for people like the one he's looking for. Leading him to a cell, he points inside. The man asks with a bit of apprehension if the client really wants that guy, and Palm just confirms that yes, he's aware. Palm stares at the prisoner chained to the wall, watching him in silence. He confirms his suspicion. The chained man is exactly who he was looking for. In his previous life, the death of a certain individual accelerated the world's destruction. That person was the axe heroine Erin, and the culprit was none other than the only apprentice she ever had. Debo, the hero killer, was responsible for the incident that marked the beginning of the end. An unbelievable show of power. With brutal suspicion, the prisoner asks, "You came for me?" And with spine-chilling coldness, he tells Palm to beat it. "I don't know you. Get lost." The vendor, apologizing to the client, comments that the prisoner's mental state is a bit unstable. The prisoner grits his teeth, reacting to the treatment. The vendor, unfiltered, says there are other mad dogs like him around here. Palm displays a slight smile and just watches. By his side, Debo was one of the few who gained attention after the last day, sometimes even considered rivals from the same region. Debo taunts Palm. "So, how much am I worth? You look like a young master who can afford any price." He immediately demands 1 million meso. Is that cool for the young master? The truth is, both desperately needed money. After all, Debo had a younger sister with the black blood disease, and time was running out. He tells Palm to leave if he doesn't have the money, and watches as Palm reaches into his jacket pocket. The prisoner reacts with surprise and follows him with his gaze. Palm pulls out a thick wad of cash and confirms, yes, it's 1 million meso. Both the vendor and Debo question its authenticity at the same time. Is that real money? Are you serious? Debo lowers his head for a moment and falls silent. Palm then dictates the terms. He presents a 1-year contract with split benefits and priority in choosing portal items. The vendor immediately gets the picture. This was a party member contract, not a slave contract. Palm hands over the document and offers the paper for Debo to check. Debo snatches the contract from his hand. No turning back now? He bites his own thumb, preparing to seal the deal. And he accepts without hesitation, because his sister's life hangs by a thread. Palm watches it all and displays a slight smile. Palm assures the next step. With the contract signed, we head straight for the portal, and Debo immediately asks, "Leave it to me." Palm warns bluntly, "You'll have to prove your worth." With a grin, Debo promises, "I'll work harder than anyone you've ever seen." Already in the forest, Debo follows Palm, holding an axe. He calls out to his boss, "Thanks for the new weapon, but I use a longsword. We'd better go back and swap it." Palm calmly informs him, "From now on, you'll use an axe." Debo then asks, "And is this the portal to test me?" Facing a red-level portal with an 8 entry limit, Palm confirms it's the right spot. Debo looks around and asks, "Where's the rest of the crew? A rich boss should have a solid team." Palm just stares at him in silence, and Debo argues, "We need a healer. Why are you looking at me like that?" Stuttering, he wonders, "Is the boss?" But Palm reassures him instantly. No need to worry about other members. Debo is relieved for a split second. Palm then points to Debo's chest and orders, "Right here." Caught off guard by the weirdness of it all, Debo just stares at him confused. He stutters once more and claims, "That can't be true." But Palm doesn't wait. He kicks Debo right into the portal and orders, "Stop wasting time." Debo screams as he's hurled to the other side. They arrive in a rocky desert. Debo immediately calls Palm crazy. An 8-person portal with only 2 of us? He gripes about still having to use a weapon he's completely unfamiliar with. Then, out of nowhere, a horde of wooden monsters known as stumps appears before them. Debo realizes he messed everything up with his shouting, attracting the hard-trunked creatures. Palm simply shoves him aside and orders, "Get out of the way." He charges alone toward the approaching monsters. Palm launches a projectile that hits one of the creatures square in the head. Debo stares at him, shocked by what he just witnessed. Several more projectiles hit the stumps dead on. Palm scolds him, "It's disappointing to see you act this way," and warns, Don't make mistakes like that again, Debo wonders. What kind of monster is this guy? Under the light of the full moon, the news spreads. The merchants took the bait. Someone reports that although they're still buying time, the 40 required people have already been captured. Then, the crucial question is posed to the leader. Do we have permission to proceed? In the shadows, a figure replies yes, holding a wine glass. He declares everything will be carried out according to that person's wishes. And raising his glass, he toasts to freedom for Maple World. Debo approaches with a bag and reports. He gathered a total of 27 mana stones. Palm just orders, keep going, and his companion quickly agrees. Debo thinks Palm seemed like some random lunatic, but his telekinetic power is no joke. He gets hyped thinking about how much money he's going to make, but Palm interrupts him. I found something. Facing a new group of stumps, Palm comments, that's a perfect number. Debo asks what he means by a perfect number. Palm stares at him for a moment. Then he takes off, leaving Debo alone with the monsters. Debo panics, realizing he'll have to fight alone, with a weapon he's never used before. He braces for combat against the approaching horde. From a distance, Palm watches Debo and how he uses the weapon. He knows his companion will soon get the picture that the axe is the weapon that will make him stronger. After all, there's no doubt he's talented, as he's the only apprentice chosen by the axe hero, Aaron. Debo moves with agility among the monsters, dodging and blocking attacks. Palm notices he picked it up super fast and is already strong as hell, even without having awakened a circle. Debo gets rattled as the ground starts shaking and wonders, is that an earthquake? Suddenly, a giant spike erupts from the earth right in front of him. He's thrown back by the impact and asks, what the heck is that? A colossal Stumpy then appears before him. Palm then charges forward, shoving Debo out of the way of the monster's attack. He stares down the creature and declares, your size just makes you an easier target. Lying on the ground, Debo realizes magic might actually work against the monster, but the Stumpy blocks the attack with its mouth. Palm sees the creature reacted faster than expected and unleashes telekinesis for another strike. He's shocked to see the monster blocked that one too. The Stumpy stays standing and Palm yells at Debo, run unless you want to die. Debo gets it. It's not that their attacks aren't working, otherwise the monster wouldn't even bother blocking them. The problem then is the creature's branches. Palm tells Debo, take care of the emerging stumps while I handle the big bastard. But Palm charges into the attack and Debo wonders, why is he so fast? Debo shouts, that monster can't be beaten without a plan. We gotta get out of here. But the Stumpy blocks the attack and Debo points out, I was right. A second projectile then hits the monster dead on, and Debo wonders if it actually landed. He's impressed by the strategy. After all, by hiding a fire arrow behind the first one, the monster couldn't block 2 consecutive attacks. Debo realizes a Stumpy is defenseless against attacks like that, and his boss is way more monstrous than he thought. He grinds his teeth in frustration. Suddenly he notices some stumps got past them and yells at Palm, look behind you, but Palm handles them in a flash. He then asks, Debo, you can't even deal with the small fry? The giant Stumpy gets hit again, kicking up a huge cloud of dust. Palm realizes the creature showed him an opening, if only for a second. Debo leaps in front and blocks the attack, heading for his boss. He says, I just saved your butt. You better take back what you said. Palm comments, you finally seem to be pulling your weight. Together, they get ready to finish off that damn thing. Debo yells it's not over yet and attacks the monster from below. He raises his axe and braces himself for the final blow. With his face bloody, Debo decides it's dessert time. He charges forward without hesitation and strikes down the remaining approaching stumps. As Debo gets ready for the attack, the giant Stumpy adjusts and aims for him. Palm then unleashes a massive fiery spin attack, sending flames straight at the creature. The creature takes a direct hit, screaming in pain, consumed by the fiery wrath. Exhausted, Debo collapses to his knees. Palm walks over and says, good job. Debo immediately replies, you did good too. Then they walk past the creature's burning corpse and continue on. Night falls over the city, blanketing everything. Sitting at the table, a young woman decides it's best to eat quickly and head to bed since it's getting late. She clasps her hands together and gives thanks for the meal. Suddenly, the young woman hears a knock at the door and turns around. Opening the door, she asks, who's there? The young woman stares at the figure standing before her, observing in silence. Soon she recognizes him. It's her brother. He holds a bag of coins and announces, I'm back. Then she hugs him and says, welcome back. Elsewhere, a small house stands isolated in the middle of the forest, shrouded in the night's darkness. Palm enters the residence, gripping his staff tightly. He walks past a portrait on a piece of furniture and continues deeper inside. Palm observes a body on the bed, remaining motionless, but he shows no emotion whatsoever. Then, Palm silently steps away, leaving the forest house to burn to ashes. Abbas gets the picture. This situation is gonna be trouble. He needs to get the 100 gates sorted, or Sir Rakan will take the reins and it'll be game over. All 10 major merchant unions have their eyes on clearing the portal, because epic or even legendary items are practically guaranteed inside. But Abbas snuffs out his cigar in the ashtray and warns, that doesn't mean the task will be easy, not by a long shot. He lays it out. The 3 Natasha sisters from the Goldrich Union are such a powerful trio that Gaffor's second circle adventurers don't stand a chance against them. All the unions will send their best teams, and the Gaffor Merchant Union will be easily swallowed up by all of them. Abbas holds up a poster with Palm's face and admits to himself, he's a little hesitant, and for good reason. Suddenly, the office door bursts open, and Abbas barks, "Who the hell dares enter without knocking?" He spins sharply in his chair and faces the figure who just entered the room. Abbas recognizes the newcomer and identifies him. It's Sir Rakan. Already seated, Rakan asks if the list of groups to clear the portal is ready, then questions, "What do you think about that little friend of yours from last time?" Abbas explains that Palm has his reasons, but Rakan cuts him off. The death of Shev's entire party is the cause of his skepticism, and he won't change his mind. Rakan gestures with his hand and suggests Abbas needs to test him again. He quickly says there's a perfect place for it, and that to be practical, Abbas should gather all the groups he's considering. With a smirk, Rakan adds, "This time we'll have plenty of witnesses." Down by the portal, Debo arrives with a partner and states the obvious. Way too many people are showing up. A stranger approaches and asks, "You guys are the 5th group, right?" The leader of the front group takes a good look and comments, "There are 2 guys over there with a slave background." Other adventurers are already whispering that the duo isn't friendly at all, but one of them shoots back. It's normal for experienced groups to think like that. It's the law of the jungle. Palm reads the room and gets it. Everyone here is a real pro. They don't need bait. Way different from Shev's crew. An adventurer scans the clearing and warns, "That's it. Everyone's here." Abbas introduces himself and gets straight to the point. "I'll be clear. I'm giving you a chance to show your skills." The leader of one of the groups immediately asks, "What kind of chance would that be?" Then Abbas extends his hand toward the portal and explains the deal. It's the chance to clear it, simple as that. The man with the bandana and his partner's eyes widen, and they ask in shock, "Is he really talking about the 100 gates?" Palm watches the scene and hears one of the guys state, "Looks like we're getting special treatment." Abbas tells everyone to give it their all, and then a number 40 forms at the portal's entrance. The portal's entrance fully activates and glows with an ominous light. Transported to a dense forest, the group hears their leader question, "Are we in the same place again?" He turns to one of the mages and asks, "Should we just join the boss hunt? That would be a good deal for all of us." They decide to split up and agree to meet up at the first sign. Debo and Palm silently watch the other groups walk away without saying a word. One of the mages, Dolan, instructs his team, "Kill everything in your path. We don't have much time." Dolan stops when he spots a small creature moving and scoffs. "Is that all?" He figures the monster's a total waste of time, so he starts prepping a powerful attack and fires a deadly energy beam at the creature. Finding the task way too tedious, Dolan barks, "Get the magic stone. Let's move on now." But the creature is still there, standing strong, and everyone's stunned. Dolan wonders if his magic just bounced off, while a partner quickly says, "That won't work." Dolan yells at the team, "Wait! Be careful, you idiots!" Suddenly the group finds itself completely surrounded by creatures, bursting from the ground with dark fury. After the brutal confrontation, the group is exhausted amidst the fallen monsters, and one of them sighs, "It's over." One of the adventurers complains to Dolan, "The monsters are stronger than usual. What are you guys trying to do here?" She concludes that winning by kill count is total BS, and that this way, they'll burn through all their stamina even before the boss. Even if it's risky as hell, Dolan decides to break the alliance and head straight for the boss. No more delays. From a distance, Palm watches the play and states, "That's exactly what most groups will catch on to." Leaning on his spear, Debo grumbles, "Those things were tough as nails. And you, Palm, just stood there doing nothing." But Palm retorts, "There were only 3. Chill out." Debo states that either way they can't waste time, and so he agrees to continue. Debo suggests they take out the boss first thing, but Palm firmly declares, "Let's clear out the trash first." Palm explains that how they handle the small monsters is crucial, because the fight against the boss, who's seriously dangerous, is going to be incredibly fierce. Debo, grumbling, snaps, "You always talk like you know everything, you know it all." Palm looks at the sky and warns, "I can feel something very dangerous coming from that portal, a sinister aura." Meanwhile, Dolan's group pushes deeper into the same forest. One of Dolan's partners draws his attention to something bizarre she found ahead. Facing the escape portal, Dolan instructs the team, leave marks from here on without fail. Suddenly, one of the men starts laughing loudly, a strange laugh, and Dolan questions him point blank. What the hell was that? Shut up, you imbecile. He grabs the adventurer and warns, that way you'll attract all the surrounding monsters, you idiot. But the man can't stop laughing and wonders amidst his cackles, what's happening to me? Right afterward, all the other group members start laughing hysterically, a gruesome scene. Dolan realizes it's poison instantly and decides he needs to bail, even if it's alone, no matter the cost. Dolan turns to run and finds a gigantic mushroom-shaped monster appearing right in his path, blocking his escape. Completely affected by the insidious poison, Dolan also starts laughing uncontrollably, an empty and terrifying laugh. The scene drastically shifts to an imposing river, squeezed between giant cliffs. Debo walks along the edge and realizes Palm hasn't fought even once today. Then suddenly a signal bursts in the sky and Debo identifies it instantly. The group meets up at the spot, and the leader is totally shocked. They actually found the boss. It's only then he notices one of the groups is missing. But even so, he decides to start explaining after all, it looks like everyone else has already arrived. An adventurer warns that the wizard Dolan's group still isn't there, but the leader cuts her off. No reason to wait. So, he announces to everyone that they found the boss. And the moment they ran into it, they saw Dolan's group being absolutely decimated by the poisonous mushroom of madness. Startled, the adventurers' eyes go wide just hearing the monster's name. The adventurers immediately get that they need to give up on the boss hunt and find the escape portal, but Debo turns to Palm and asks if the monster is really that dangerous. Palm gets straight to it. This is the worst kind of boss we could possibly run into in a dungeon at our level. Can you hear it, Debo? He calmly explains that because of the spores, they have to use ranged attacks. But here's the problem. That won't do any damage, because the monster is resistant and super fast. The leader then drops the bomb. Unfortunately, the boss is right in the path of the escape portal, so it'll be impossible to leave without facing it. Debo immediately starts bragging, saying the monster is nothing and he can go wild with his invincible fire arrow, but Palm tells him to shut up right away. Annoyed, Debo talks back, but Palm warns, we're dead if we go into this without a plan. Then he firmly questions, why won't your fire arrow even scratch the monster? Palm explains that even the small mushrooms in that portal are super resistant, so it's safe to assume the boss is a tank too. An adventurer complains about how obvious that is, but the leader cuts him off. We don't have time for this. We need to figure out how to act now. Raising his hand, Palm drops a bombshell. 50,000 mesos. The leader turns to him and asks, what do you mean by that? Palm clarifies the math. It's 50,000 mesos per person. And since there are 30 of us, you'll need to cough up 1.5 million. Then he proposes, if you pay up, Debo and I will be the bait for everyone. Debo's eyes go wide, wondering, what the hell is Palm talking about? Yelling right away, the adventurer leader orders, don't be so cocky. He continues his explanation, stating that this boss can't be lured so easily, and Palm shouldn't think his slave tactics will always work. And if you fail to draw its attention, everyone will die because slaves just get in the way in high-rank portals. What's more, he points at Debo, provoking, what can a two-circle adventurer and a slave who doesn't even seem to have awakened do, huh? Annoyed by the guy's big talk, Debo thinks, this jerk is looking for a fight, and I don't want to be the bait either. Palm questions, so what's your plan then? Because if there was a way to deal with the boss, you wouldn't have fired the flare, right? Palm then decides to clarify that their group consists of one second circle and one first circle, making Debo look at his own hand and wonder, since when did that happen? Reacting with surprise, the adventurer leader asks, doesn't your group only have 1 or 2 second circles? But one of the adventurers cuts him off and says, hold on. Willing to negotiate, she says she is willing to pay if they really act as bait, but admits they don't have all the cash right then. Palm responds, that's no problem. You can pay up as soon as we get out. And if we don't make it, you should interpret that as a sacrifice. But he sets a condition. Everyone there needs to agree. So Palm commands, decide now. Near the escape portal, the mushroom boss with a terrifying aura feasts on the bodies of fallen adventurers. A brutal attack hits the monster head-on. Palm commands Debo to move the moment the boss notices them, and Debo complains, why do we have to do this? Turning with insane speed in their direction, the boss makes Debo's eyes go wide, shocked by the monster's agility. The adventurer yells, everyone run and activate the portal before the bait dies. The rest of the group charges like mad toward the escape portal. Debo runs into a group of smaller monsters that pop up to attack him. Yelling that they don't seem that easy to kill, he quickly preps an attack and tells the monsters, get out of here. He then unleashes a devastating explosive slash that wipes out all the creatures around around him, but the mushroom boss pops up right behind him, ready to rumble. From a distance, Palm fires a fire arrow to hold back the advance of the smaller monsters. Then he hits the boss once more with another arrow. Debo positions himself in front of Palm and yells, "The monster is catching up to us." Palm then yells for him to jump, and the two take an insane leap off the cliff. The giant monster wastes no time and jumps right after them, with unbelievable fury. In midair, Debo turns to the monster and flips it off. Palm's attack hits the boss dead on, creating a gigantic explosion as the three plummet. The fall continues, and they head straight for the river flowing below, between the cliffs. Debo emerges from the water, cursing that damn mushroom almost killed him. Then he turns and questions what that thing's deal is. While wringing out his clothes, Palm explains bluntly, "That's the boss and they need to prepare better if they want to kill the beast." Debo just watches silent. He questions the situation, disbelieving. "Are you serious that we're going to kill this thing?" Palm confirms he heard right, and then Debo explodes, yelling, "Are you kidding me? Don't you remember the plan was just to go in as bait and get out?" He continues to vent, saying that the bait part is done, so it's time to take off after all. Even the fire arrows didn't work. But Palm explains, the situation has changed. The competition is gone, so now they're free bait and will even pocket a bonus. Then he asks, "What's the problem? Are you gonna back out of the contract?" Debo immediately denies it, but insists that Palm still has to give him a bonus for this. Palm just agrees. Debo then asks how they're going to kill the creature, since neither melee nor long-range attacks worked, and he has no intention of throwing his life away. He insists, is there at least some way? Meanwhile, outside, Abyss and Rakan watch the portal. The adventurers start coming out and they question, wasn't that too fast for a 40-person portal? Abyss approaches an adventurer and hears the chilling news. They failed. The man explains that Dolan's group was annihilated, and Palm is still inside, serving as bait for them to get out. The adventurer concludes, his voice choked, that it's impossible to kill the portal boss with just their group. Abyss just stares at him in silence. The woman justifies herself, stating that the boss was the infamous poisonous mushroom of madness, and that there was nothing that could be done. But Abyss cuts her off, accusing him of having run with his tail between his legs. Abyss turns to leave, but is interrupted by the adventurer. "Wait!" She argues that Palm's group hasn't come out yet, and since the portal is still active, they must be alive. But Abyss puts his foot down. They won't survive. After all, the adventurer himself just said the boss is the fearsome, poisonous mushroom of madness. He then declares that if they want to wait, they can wait alone, because he doesn't have time for it, and leaves. Calling them damn useless, Abyss concludes that they just had bad luck. He continues, stating that it's impossible for even a two-circle mage to think of killing a poisonous mushroom, and that mediocre adventurers are of no use to him. Inside the portal, it's a whole new ball game. Palm knows the kind of person he's looking for is someone capable of overcoming obstacles, someone who turns the impossible into the possible, and he totally fits the bill, all while prepping his staff for battle. Then he declares, it's time to start the hunt. The right strategy for the boss is clear. Keep your distance and attack with powerful long-range abilities. After all, the creature is faster and tougher than the others, and to top it all off, it spits poison. Prepping his attack, Palm tells himself that if he uses telekinesis to make the arrow spin, its power will drastically increase. The combined energy projectile travels at high speed, slicing through the air. It's a skill only he can use, invented when he thought of a bullet capable of making the impossible possible. Unleashing his technique, Palm lets loose the move he calls Revolver. The attack hits the monster head-on. The energy keeps piercing the creature's body. Palm watches intently, checking the results of his strike. A second energy projectile wreaks serious havoc on a tree. Even so, the monster stays on its feet, and Palm figures out the play. He missed the head, where the core is. Then, another explosion hits the upper part of the creature's body. Palm concludes it's tough to use Revolver while moving, and the main problem is the cooldown. He preps another attack and tells himself he needs to finish this before the boss recovers. The monster advances towards them again. Suddenly, the creature stops, looking disoriented. Palm shouts, "Now's the time!" Debo pulls a rope with all his might. The rope snags the monster's legs, making it stumble forward. The creature then face plants into the muddy ground. The monster slowly picks itself up, rising from the ground. From the top of the cliff, Palm watches the creature. The monster turns towards Debo and preps itself. Calling the monster a filthy mushroom, Debo attacks it with his axe. He continues to unleash blows against the creature. The blow opens a wound on the monster, which releases gas from its mouth. Debo turns to the monster and provokes, "So, why don't we play now that the air's all fresh?" Palm figures out the play, questioning if that's the monster's real head. He thanks them for showing him, and is already holding what looks like a flare. Debo instantly gets it. That's a flare, and the entire previous attack was nothing but a bluff. Then Palm, from atop the cliff, unleashes his revolver attack, and pure energy pierces the creature's silhouette. The attack hits the ground and causes a gigantic explosion, and an absurd amount of gas erupts from the monster's body. Debo grumbles, annoyed that the guy was a pain in the ass to the very end. Then he's thrown backward by a rope that saves him from the detonation. He struggles to his feet and confesses, "I thought I was gonna die." The monster's poisonous gas spreads throughout the area, and Debo still asks if it's really over. Palm confirms it's over, and Palm even praises Debo. "You did well." He states they'll grab the mana stone as soon as the poison clears, but he doesn't notice the creature approaching. Palm tries to quickly turn to face the new threat, and the poison starts dissipating from the monster's body. But then, a small sphere of energy emerges from the creature's remains, and amidst the desperation of everything that's happened, Debo starts to smile. Meanwhile, back at the office, Rakan laughs out loud and immediately asks Abbas, "Did you come back empty-handed?" He continues, saying his colleague's temper hasn't changed one bit. Abbas apologizes for what happened and says they should have let the Cygnus Knights handle it. But then someone knocks on the door, and Abbas, annoyed, yells for them to get lost, since he'd already given orders not to be disturbed. The door opens unceremoniously, and a voice announces, "I'm coming in." Abbas angrily questions, "Who the hell is it?" He quickly turns to see who the intruder is, and there, standing in the doorway, is Palm, who bluntly announces, "I'm back." Rakan, watching the scene, cracks a smile and declares, "This is gonna get interesting." Rakan turns to Abbas and asks what's going on, wanting to know if someone climbed out of their grave. He introduces himself to Palm and immediately lays it out. The guy's survival skills are insane, just like the rumors say. He continues, saying Palm is exactly the type Gafor needs right now, and the young man thanks him for the compliment, coolly. Rakan then declares he likes polite people and only has one question to ask. Then he calmly questions, "Could Palm show that same skill again at the 100-man gate?" Palm answers straight up, "That's a tough one." Rakan just stares him down, silent after the reply. Abbas then snaps at Palm, "Is that any way to talk to Mr. Rakan? Think you can just pick your missions?" And reminds the kid not to forget he still has a debt. Rakan smiles and remarks, "If it's difficult, then it's not impossible." But Palm, who doesn't beat around the bush, says he'll change the question. He looks up, locks eyes with Rakan, and asks point blank, "What do you want?" In a tavern, Debo spits out his drink. He protests loudly. 5 million mesos per person is insane. That's 10 million total for the two of them. Palm turns to him and apologizes. Debo questions if Palm isn't getting too greedy. After all, they won't just walk away from the offer for their first major mission. Palm wipes his face and responds that it's not his problem. The decision is up to them. Worried, his companion comments that if things go south, Abbas will blacklist them both. Then he notices movement. Someone is approaching. The adventurer leader speaks candidly. Palm looks chilled out, unlike them, who are feeling on the verge of death. Debo gets up pissed off and challenges him to a fight. "Is that how you thank someone for saving you?" But the man's companion bows and apologizes quickly. Iburu also apologizes, admitting he misjudged them and is ashamed as an adventurer. The other man hands over a bag of money and explains that everyone chipped in extra as thanks, but Debo refuses. Palm states again, "What we agreed on was 1.5 million mesos." He explains coolly that he only did the job he was paid for, so they can skip the thanks, and warns, "Don't get this wrong." Iburu and his companion exchange glances, reacting to his vibe. Debo holds the money bag and mutters that he got carried away for nothing and that he'll do the count now. Palm is sitting at the bar and asks Iburu his companion's name. Iburu questions, "So Palm can do the job he's paid for?" In the office, Abbas yells, "He can't." He argues with Rakan that 10 million mesos is for a third or fourth circle adventurer, and accepting that will set a terrible precedent. Abbas suggests caution, saying Palm might just be testing the waters, so it's better to call him back to discuss the payment terms. Rakan just questions, "You really think that?" Abbas responds confidently that it wouldn't surprise him if he asked for double that cash. Rakan hands over a document and tells him to read it. Abbas reads the paper and gets that they're only sending Palm's group to represent the Gafor Merchant Union, and wonders what two people can do there. He continues reading and reacts to what he finds, shocked. He asks, "Is that for real?" And Rakan responds that he paid a hefty sum for that information and would be in deep trouble if it weren't. The document reveals the name Dark Lord Jin, and Abbas gets the implications if that's true, and unbelievable danger. Rakan grabs a pen and warns, "Make no mistake." He points the pen forward and declares, "The war has already started." The scene changes. The gate now appears surrounded by a gigantic camp. Various groups of adventurers await, gathered around campfires in palpable tension. A young adventurer comments in surprise that he didn't actually think they'd accept the terms. Palm warns the guy not to get hyped up and to focus, but Debo already responds that he's an experienced adventurer now too, you know? Sporting the Merchant Union's emblem on his cloak, he's showing off his pride. Meanwhile, other adventurers in the camp prepare tensely, the atmosphere heavy. Palm comments comments on the atmosphere, observing the vibe of the place, and Debo adds that it seems they have a new face around. An adventurer, Sheldon from the Genus Union, comes over and asks if they're from the Gafor Merchant Union. Palm introduces himself and says, "I'm just a C-rank adventurer." Sheldon reacts surprised, commenting he thought only 2-circle adventurers could get in due to restrictions. Still baffled, the man keeps wondering how a C-ranker even got into the portal. It just made no sense. A blonde woman approaches the group and tells the guy to give them some space. She firmly explains she has business to handle with that person. Sheldon backs off, annoyed he wasted his time, as the woman and her group move closer to Palm. In a flashback, Palm watches a scene unfold inside an office. Inside the office, he questions, "Why do I have to do this?" Seated at the table, a woman tells him to just do as he's told, and asks why he's asking so many questions. The blonde woman seriously informs them. The Gafor Merchant Union will be working with the Cygnus Night Order at this gate. Following the teachings of Empress Cygnus, she's the strongest of the group and has shown an insane interest in this gate. Abbas explains the situation. The quota for the gate has already been taken, so they decided to work with the knights, and even though they're just trainees, the probability of success is high. He comments on possible hidden motives for them coming to this gate, stating the offer wasn't bad, so they're going to work together. Palm understands it won't be a problem if it's cooperative work, but he still thinks it won't be that easy. But Abbas admits there's something off about them, a smell that just doesn't sit right. Back at the camp, the woman introduces herself. "I'm Kiri, leader of the Cygnus Order's rookies, and I hope you don't think we're on the same level." Not wanting any extra trouble, she asks him to just follow orders in silence, and that absolutely pisses Debo off. Kiri asks Palm if it's just the two of them sent by the Gafor Merchant Union, and he confirms that yeah, it seems that way. She questions the situation. Is Gafor not taking this seriously? Meanwhile, the Crocus group from the Dig Merchant Union prepares for the mission, an elite squad, and the Kubels group from the Marina Merchant Union also makes their presence known, flexing their power. Debo notices the shift in atmosphere and comments that the Merchant Union's elite completely changed the vibe. The air grew heavy. Suddenly, the arrival of a new group grabs everyone's attention, a brutal impact. It's the 3 Natasha sisters from the Goldrich Merchant Union. One of the 3 Natasha sisters walks ahead, flaunting the Goldrich Merchant Union's emblem, their aura of power clearly visible. Kiri watches the trio and comments that they're all for show, full of arrogance. A red-haired man steps forward and positions himself to speak to everyone there. He introduces himself as Longro and explains they are the invasion guard, assigned to provide support as everyone exits the gate. Longro decides to explain the rules one more time as a reminder, even though everyone already knows them. Clarifying the conditions, Longro states that the legendary item belongs to the merchant unions, not to whoever finds it, but everyone will be paid according to the agreed terms, no exceptions. He warns the group, if anyone is caught trying to steal an item, they won't just have to face their B-rank adventurer group, things are gonna get way worse. Debo notices a mark on one of the men's arms and asks, "Does that mean 5 circles?" He looks at the rest of the group and wonders if they're all at that level. Unbelievable power. Longro finishes the warnings and clears everyone to enter the gate. Kiri turns to Palm and tells him to follow her because she's going to lead the way. She announces, "We will be the victors." Debo quietly questions what Kiri's deal is, and if Palm really needs to work with someone like that. Palm just looks straight ahead and says, "It's finally begun." With the number 100 appearing at the entrance, he realizes all his efforts have led to this gate, one he didn't experience in his past life, but needs to conquer at all costs. Palm declares that everything starts here and moves forward with Debo, who grumbles that he won't help the others if they come dragging behind later. No way. An adventurer runs ahead of the group and tells everyone to follow him. Debo questions the environment and asks, "Why is the grass so tall here?" Kiri warns the guy, tells him to stop fooling around and keep up with the group, then asks, "Do you think we're on a field trip?" He sees the others pulling ahead and wonders if he really needs to put up with that kind of treatment. Then he spots something up ahead and notices Palm fallen on the ground. Debo approaches the fallen guy and asks, "What are you doing?" Suddenly, something heavy violently slams into the ground. One of the men turns, noticing the commotion, and spots movement forming towards the other group. He identifies the source and declares, "It's a herd of ribbon hogs." He then realizes at least 1,000 of them are charging straight for everyone. Kiri urgently orders everyone to get out of the way, since most of the other groups haven't even arrived yet. One of the men questions the situation, asking, "Who broke the rule about not luring danger to the portal entrance?" Another leader directs his crew, guiding the El Nido merchants one way, while he and his group head another. The creatures end up carving a path of destruction. Kiri decides to react, planning to lure the monsters to a place with obstacles, but one of her men warns her about a problem. She reacts with surprise, informed that the Gafor Merchant Syndicate crew seems to have vanished. Debo comments they can relax now, asking Palm, "How did you guess the ribbon hogs would get riled up?" Palm calmly explains that, based on his experience, many herds of beasts travel across plains like these. An info sheet describes ribbon hogs as 2-meter monsters with violent personalities that act in groups of hundreds or thousands. He continues, stating that the merchant groups could handle the creatures, but would probably avoid confrontation to save energy. Since no one knows which monster they'll face, he declares it's impossible to complete the portal just by killing ribbon hogs. Palm remembers the past, recalling that the previous attack on the Sleepywood Gate was a complete failure where all the adventurers died. Debo approaches and asks, "What are you thinking about so hard?" Suddenly, a rope snags Palm's foot, and Debo immediately looks down. Next, a massive log trap is triggered, launching both of them sky high as Debo questions, "What's going on?" The structure reveals its true scale, a huge-ass trap. Palm catches Debo, wondering who could have pulled off something like this. A sword appears, slicing the trap's rope, and a bald man lands on the ground. He destroys the wooden structure with a single blow, revealing his unbelievable strength. The newcomer comments, "That trap is childish." Then his companion informs him, "That must have been the last of them." The bald man named Babel warns Crocus not to let his guard down. Crocus watches in silence, remaining with his arms crossed. He comments on the trap pattern, stating they mimic human tactics, which indicates intelligent enemies. He concludes they're ogres, tough monsters to face, equivalent to a red portal boss. Crocus confirms the severity, saying this reveals the portal's difficulty. Without someone at his level nearby, everyone would already be dead. He decides to take advantage of the situation and orders, "Follow me." On the way, he warns his buddy to watch out and not leave anything behind. Crocus glances back and sees his ally wiped out. In the same instant, 2 more allies get finished off in one shot. With no chance at all, someone else quickly finishes the job and takes down Crocus. A man shows up and calls him an idiot for acting like he knew it all. He explains the plan, saying they used the ribbon pigs to distract people entering the portal. Sitting on a rock, another person chimes in that the idea worked, and this is the perfect chance to make their move. The same guy finds all of it annoying and grumbles. As he gets up, he tells the Natasha sisters that time's running out, so it's go time. The Natasha sisters stay silent, frozen by the situation. The old guy fills them in on their condition, stating there's no point trying to move since his magic won't let them for 30 minutes. The woman then asks, "Why are you doing this?" He's impressed, commenting on her ability to speak even under his magic's effect. Just as you'd expect from a Narsha, he sets his priority, stating he'll get rid of her first, considering her the most dangerous of the bunch. The other 2 sisters watch the scene. Crouching by the warrior's body, he muses that's a tough question to answer. Suddenly he looks up and glares at the group. He points his staff at them and asks, "Maybe this will make it easier to understand?" With a smile he declares, "All of this is for the Dark Mage Lord." One of the sisters watches his move and sees the man conjure a fire arrow. The attack hits her dead on. Her body drops, and he remains unfazed. He soon comments that this seems to never end. He closes his eyes and says he just wanted a little rest. In a flashback, a lord calls for William, and he steps forward. The lord explains they'd stayed in the shadows for far too long, growing and spreading their power for this very moment. He declares this the climax of their efforts and states it's finally time to reap the rewards of all their hard work. William promises dedication and says, "I won't disappoint you." His master hands him a feather as a gift, warning him that failure isn't an option. Back in the present, William comments he can't even use half his power after all that. He backs off, stating he can't do anything, then wonders if he should take the situation a little more seriously. A massive army of gigantic ogres keeps watch, guarding the enormous wooden fortress under the cloak of night. Hidden behind a tree, Debo is stunned by the sight and immediately asks, "What the heck is this?" He asks if everyone there is a boss-level monster, but Palm quickly gets the picture and reminds him there's only one. Palm explains that ogres are naturally super strong, and adds that they become even more formidable by having stolen items from dead adventurers. Debo feels dread take over as he gets the picture, realizing that the stolen weapons might let the monsters use abilities, and he's breathless. He understands they will fight alone against the equivalent of an entire army, and then insists, "We need to regroup with Kiri." Palm then questions, "Why didn't you want to split up from her before?" and mocks Debo for believing that defeating an army is impossible. They walk along a forest path and suddenly, 2 ogres burst from the trees. Palm shoves Debo toward the ogres, forcing him to throw down. Debo immediately complains, "That was on purpose," and claims he never said he wanted to fight alone, man. Debo charges one of the monsters, trying to land a hit, but the creature counters with a direct punch. Debo uses his axe handle and defends the blow with difficulty, feeling the impact. The pissed-off ogre tells Debo to shut his trap for screaming so loud, and even insults him. Debo raises his axe for the final blow and declares, "You're done, you monster!" But the ogre dodges the attack with surprising agility and dashes aside. Debo gets the picture and intercepts the monster midair with an axe swing, mercilessly blocking its escape. He uses all his strength to hold the creature, and indignantly questions, "Damn it, why won't this thing just die already?" But the creature simply bites the blade, and Debo stares at the unexpected attack, surprised. Debo leaps and brings down a massive overhead attack on the second ogre. The second monster just drops dead to the ground, done for, offering no more resistance. Debo turns to Palm and comments, "I thought you were gonna lend a hand, man." Palm coolly states that now Debo knows monsters aren't invincible, but Debo shoots back that it only made him doubt the damn mission even more. Suddenly, Debo sharply turns his head. Something strange catches his eye. He finds several dead knights strewn like garbage through the forest and immediately questions, "What the hell is this?" Debo recognizes the bodies. They're from the Cygnus Knights, and then wonders, what the hell happened here? But one of the knights is still breathing on the ground. Debo calls Palm and points to the survivor. Palm observes the wounded man leaning against the tree and wonders, is he really a survivor? Palm approaches and asks the knight what went down, wanting to know, were you attacked by an ogre? The knight denies with tremendous effort and explains it wasn't an ogre, it was an assassin. Meanwhile, in a room, Abbas ponders the messed up situation. He concludes that it makes no sense and tries to organize his thoughts. Assassins are people who invade portals to kick the crap out of other adventurers, and the intel says evidence vanishes with the portal. Abbas thinks it would be a fight with no winners in this case. They'd waste a hell of a lot of energy and still raise suspicions outside. He assesses that a mercantile union would never take such a dangerous gamble, so he suspects that another force behind this would have something to gain. Back in the forest, Debo turns to Palm and calls him boss. Elsewhere, Kiri comments that it's been a while since she saw a certain girl. The wounded knight pounds the ground in anger and questions, why would Lady Kiri do this? Is there a traitor among us? Palm also doesn't get the picture, commenting, she's one of Cygnus's knights, why the hell would she be an assassin? And expresses his utter disbelief. Debo agrees it's a tough pill to swallow, and remembers that her orders at the portal entrance now seem to be part of a dirty plan. The knight catches his breath and reveals that, before finishing the job, she herself said who she was. Declaring herself a follower of the terrifying Black Mage, she made her sinister purpose clear. Debo reacts to the name as if shocked and asks, Black Mage? Did I hear that right? The ancient legend flashes in his mind. 800 years ago, a transcendent and malevolent being, known as the Black Mage, threatened the entire world. 6 heroes united in a colossal force to stop him, faced a great epic battle, and sealed both him and his dark forces. With the Black Mage's army in total chaos, the Allied forces advanced mercilessly and massacred all his followers. Debo comments, any citizen of Maple World would know that, man, and thinks it's impossible for her to be a follower. Palm decides there's no time to worry about ogres and declares they need to go after her. Now, he asks the knight, are you coming with us? And warns right away, get ready for a beatdown when we find her. The knight replies immediately, that's exactly what I want, and accepts the offer without hesitation. Meanwhile, Kiri races across rocky terrain, flying low. She reaches a clearing and finds William, who calmly greets her. I was expecting you, Lady Kiri. Beside him, a white-haired woman remains silent, watching everything as William calls out to Lady Kiri. William deduces she took care of the ribbon pigs and states the plan can move forward now that everyone is separated. He asks, did you receive the gift we sent? And tries to provoke a reaction, but Kiri remains completely silent. Wielding her sword with an imposing stance, she simply asks, who the hell are you people? Back in the forest, Debo helps the wounded knight, who reassures him, Palm will find her in no time. The knight holds a dagger in his hand and declares, this is great. Kiri advances steadily, crossing swords with an assassin. William watches the fight and praises the incredible performance of the Cygnus Knight's captain. Then, he wonders how long she can endure the combat, tracking every movement. Kiri prepares her attack and announces the rising sun. An assassin leaps towards her and declares, it's time for you to die. But Kiri unleashes her solar strike and flings the enemy away. She demands, reveal your purpose if you don't want to die right here. Kiri maintains her firm stance, and an annoyed William orders his men, hurry up and kill her. Then a group of assassins charges at her and shouts, die! Kiri continues to fight, but then she sees someone unexpectedly take down one of the enemies. William is shocked by the scene. Kiri turns and faces her next opponent. Meanwhile, Debo remains with his back to the scene. He helps a wounded knight and assures him the boss will find him soon. But the knight reveals a dagger and asks Debo, give Kiri my regards when you find her. Then his hand is torn off in the process. Flung aside, the knight asks, What's going on? Palm watches him on the ground, clutching his wounded hand, staying alert. Debo turns to Palm and asks him, what's happening? Palm just says it was as he suspected and keeps his cool. He stares at the knight on the ground and points. Your lie was lame. The knight says he's sorry and tries to justify himself, but Palm states he's not in the habit of trusting anyone, and that's the end of it. From afar, William watches Debo and Kiri together and finds the situation odd. He ponders the appearance of an unwelcome guest and tries to figure out the play. Then he hears his ally identify the kid from Gaffor's merchant union, and William replies, I already know. He confronts Pitten and says, you failed. Was it a mistake to give you a second chance to lose Kiri? Kiri stares them down and comments, since they look strong, it's time for the elite to play. William's group charges forward to attack and springs into action. Kiri warns Debo, watch out for these guys. He replies, I know, with a smile. Debo comments, they're perverts. And Kiri questions, what do you mean by that? William charges forward with his men and declares, let's finish this quickly. Kiri tells Debo he should be able to handle at least one of them, and then she gets ready, but Debo warns her, don't drop your guard. Debo attacks one of the men with his wild strike and charges in hard, but Shulden intercepts the axe midway and blocks the attack. He prepares for a new attack, a pierce, and declares, your opponent is done for. He's suddenly interrupted by a projectile and turns to see where it came from. One of the enemies fires an arrow with her crossbow and keeps him pinned. He's attacked from behind by an assassin, then curses both of them as scumbags. Struck head-on by a superior charge, Debo loses his footing. Debo kneels on the ground and comments that the cut wasn't deep enough. The assassin approaches and says, I'll end your misery right now. He leaps into the air and prepares a jump attack. Kiri intercepts the blow at the last second and asks her ally, what do you think you're doing? One of the men is surprised by the intervention and tries to react, but Debo silently appears behind him. Debo tells Kiri to chill out and explains he was just messing with the enemy. He attacks the man and sends him flying with his axe. Another opponent calls him a bastard, and Debo faces the incoming charge. He dodges an incoming attack and stays focused. Debo uses his explosive slash, taking out the enemy in one swift blow. One of the knights watches the fight and wonders, how can he be this strong? The same knight shakes his head, clearly disappointed by his fallen comrade's performance. Kiri slams Shulden to the ground with a single blow and holds her ground. She glares at him and asks, is this what you call elite? The knight watches the scene, cursing them under his breath. William takes a deep breath, deciding he'll have to step into the fight. He readies his staff and declares, you've wasted enough of my time. Debo looks up, reacting to a fire arrow. A massive arrow rockets toward him, slicing through the air. He realizes the attack is even faster than the boss's and narrows his eyes. The arrow slams into the ground, unleashing a massive explosion. William scoffs and says, my fire arrow is on a whole different level. It would be impossible to dodge anyway. Palm leaps through the flames and lands right in front of Debo. William glares at him and asks, who the hell are you? Palm points a finger in their direction and steps forward. Palm tells them to hold that thought and warns, we've got other guests. A colossal beast emerges from the trees, charging toward William's group. The two men react to the monster's sudden appearance, falling back instantly. An entire herd of ribbon pigs charges en masse and swarms the field. William stood there, staring at the giant creature's body and the aftermath of that battle. He thought that thing was a massive pain, and the other jerks just bolted after throwing it at the squad. Gerald approached and immediately apologized to Sir William. Then one of his men reported he was just finishing up handling everything there. William said they had no time to regroup, so the order was clear. They were going after them. He thought the situation was turning into a headache, and Palm really seemed like a tough nut to crack. William remembered. His man had warned him about Palm, but William had reassured him, saying he'd handle the guy himself. William declared, full of himself, that it was impossible for anyone to be stronger than him in that portal. He was supremely confident. Kiri asked if Palm got a good look at the enemies in the end, and Palm warned her to be careful, because those guys wouldn't die that easily. Debo questioned why Palm hadn't finished off the enemies earlier, when he had the chance. Debo figured out Palm's play, and was stunned to hear the enemy was stronger than him. Palm recalled the opponent's fire arrow, and the scene flashed in his mind. He explained that his own fire arrow barely managed to change the attack's direction, and didn't even truly affect him. Debo refused to believe it, said the guy couldn't be stronger than the boss, and told Palm to stop messing around. Debo asked if they really just ran off, and Palm confirmed. Palm showed Debo a ring, who just stared, not getting what was up. He revealed that the circle on his arm had grown to its limit, and that worried him a ton. Palm explained that, being at the top of the second circle, they should be equal to, or even stronger than the enemy. That was the logic, but the guy guy's magic had something Palm couldn't figure out because somehow it strengthened his ability. Debo was incredulous, concluding that this made the guy the strongest adventurer in the portal. Debo suggested using the same tactic with the ogres, but Palm shot it down immediately, saying that could be used against the group. Palm questioned if Debo didn't understand the mess they were in and tried to make him see the risk. Kiri interrupted him, saying that the information about a dark mage follower hidden among the knights could change everything in the future. She insisted they should go outside first and tried to guide them. Kiri suggested they should give up on clearing the portal and voiced her concern. Palm replied that it was useless, leaving the other two completely confused. Kiri questioned if he was still after that small reward and reminded him he used to be a slave. Palm asked what would happen after they alerted people and pointed out the followers had been hiding for hundreds of years. He explained that exposing them would be like cutting off a branch because they just hide again and turn into parasites. Kiri gritted her teeth in anger, showing only frustration. Palm held her back and insisted that wasn't gonna fly. Kiri then questioned him, "What do you want us to do? We're being chased and we need to get out of here." Palm simply said, "We should let them know." Then he completed the idea and revealed who the true hunters were. Sheldon was running through the forest at high speed, cutting a path through the trees. He said they needed to find them fast because if they escaped through the portal, their pest necks would be at risk. Suddenly, Debo appeared in front of Sheldon. Debo smiled and asked, "What's up?" Debo's axe collided with Sheldon's weapon, forcing the knight to fall back. Debo called Sheldon stupid for looking for them and swore he'd kill him this time. Palm intercepted the attack, flung the man aside, and Sheldon yelled Andras's name. Kiri broke free from the vines that held her. Debo asked Sheldon, "You really think you can get distracted in the middle of a fight?" An enemy advanced with their dagger and screamed for Sheldon to die. Debo dodged the attack with pure agility. Sheldon reacted to the move and questioned, "What is he doing?" Debo landed a punch on another enemy and knocked Sheldon down with them in the confusion. He followed up with a direct hit to his opponent's face. The archer was shooting with her crossbow, aiming at one of the adversaries in the distance. Kiri ran past her and the archer wondered what was going on. Kiri intercepted the strike from another sister attacking the first one and blocked their advance. Kiri's sword clashed with her opponent's. They crossed blades in a stalemate and pushed against each other. Kiri warned her, "Don't look away because I'm already sick and tired of how things are going." Nearby, William commented that it looked like the fight had started, but he was still curious about one person. He spotted a silhouette in the distance and asked if they were waiting for them. The figure revealed itself as Palm, appearing with his staff in hand. William decided they should also get started there, and both prepared their weapons. William smiled and conjured a fire arrow. Palm raised his magic focus and prepared to launch his own fire arrow in response. The two fire arrows collided in a giant explosion and threw Palm backward. William watched the scene and saw his opponent launch another fire arrow his way. He found the guy's skill incredible and just went along with the attack. The two shots met halfway and resulted in another explosion. Palm raised his arm to brace for impact and shielded himself from the force. William created a gigantic stone stake and launched it at his opponent. Palm stared at the projectile and identified it as a simple rock. William grabbed Palm right after and asked, "Is that all you got?" Palm spun his staff and prepared another fire arrow. The attack hit Palm head-on, and he blocked the impact with his own staff. William's eyes widened, surprised to see Palm manage to avoid the blow. He admitted the outcome was unexpected and commented he was sure his opponent didn't have the power to block that attack. William asked how the guy did that, but got no answer as Palm remained silent. William let out a short sigh and admitted it wasn't like they could chat in the middle of a fight. He decided he'd find out for himself and charged forward. Palm stared down the charge and held his ground. He unleashed his revolver attack, releasing the magical spiral. William questioned, "What is that?" and observed the technique. He realized Palm was using telekinesis to spin the arrow and noticed it was drilling through his magic like a drill. William stated he had never seen anything like it before and let slip a comment. The magic collided in an explosion and ripped open a crater between the two. William finally understood that his opponent strengthened the ability with telekinesis and assessed the situation. He watched Palm from across the crater and called him the kind of person they'd consider a genius. And with a smirk, William revealed that was the type he hated the most. William invited him to have a little more fun and asked him to show him more of what he could do. William said he was done playing around with him and changed his tune. He launched a fire arrow his way and fired the attack. Palm prepared his own revolver attack and countered the shot. The impact hit him full on and caused a massive explosion. William just smirked and said, "Finally." He questioned if the guy had already used his 2 shots and displayed a ring on his hand. William unleashed his poison breath and released the toxic mist. The attack hit Palm head-on and covered him completely. The blast expanded and covered the entire surrounding surrounding area. The poisonous smoke dissipated through the forest and lost its strength. William explained he forced his opponent's fire arrows into cooldown and revealed his strategy. He stated Palm wouldn't be able to do anything for 30 minutes and kept his confident smirk. With his own fire arrow on cooldown, William decided to finish things with his dagger. He advanced and declared that was his favorite part, as he couldn't wait any longer. William wondered what kind of desperate look his opponent would have, and imagined the scene. Palm stared back at him and showed no reaction. He clenched his fist tightly and gathered all his determination, and landed a direct punch to William's face. The impact sent him flying. Elsewhere in the battle, Iburu wondered how Palm managed to do that. At a tavern, Iburu offered to pay the tab in exchange for knowing how they defeated the poisonous mushroom of madness. Debo laughed and replied it would be useless to tell, as it wasn't something you could just do by wanting it. He remembered when he thought they were done for, and commented that Palm used a telekinetic ability to pull all the poison from the area. Iburu questioned if that wasn't cheating, and Debo confirmed that was exactly what he was talking about. Debo stated his boss with his skills was a total cheat and just shrugged. Back in the fight, William started choking on the poison. Palm then socked him in the jaw. A flurry of punches hammered the knight, and Palm finished the combo with a blow that sent him flying into a tree. Palm prepped his next move, his eyes locked on the target. Stuck to the tree, William could barely react. And just like that, his fire arrow hit its enemy dead on. William drags himself across the ground, utterly defeated. But he unleashes one last burst of energy towards Palm and tries a desperate final attack. Palm, though, narrows his eyes. He realizes that even though William's acting like a lunatic, he's actually got something cooking. Then Palm figures out the play. The poisonous breath didn't work out, so William's gonna try to get his staff back. Palm adjusts his stance, deciding that the moment to recover the weapon is when he finishes William off. So, he preps his magic and unleashes a blast of fire towards the fallen staff, firing off the attack. The explosion hits William head-on, and the impact completely engulfs him. But William then reveals an orb in his hand. He swears he'll break Palm into pieces. A massive torrent of fire engulfs the entire forest, and the power is unbelievable. Palm hits the ground and admits he let his guard down. He didn't expect his opponent to have a flame orb up his sleeve, and recognizes a mistake he wouldn't have made before. With the barrage of fire orbs heading his way, Palm realizes he's lost his touch, his edge. From a distance, Debo watches the explosion. He turns to Shulden, who he's still holding by the neck, and calls for his boss. Meanwhile, Kiri finishes off her opponent in a single blow, oozing power. She gets pissed off and warns Debo, "Stop messing around and finish this. Palm's opponent is too strong." But Debo responds, "That's what I was going to do." Then suddenly a crossbow bolt pierces Shulden from behind. A horde of green ogres charges towards them. Kiri tries to take control. "Focus. Finish them fast." But Debo warns her, don't underestimate them. He notices a strange-looking ogre sitting on a throne in the middle of them, and frowns. Amidst the flames, William wonders if Palm, that scumbag, is finally dead. He spits a large amount of blood onto the ground and tries to catch his breath. William admits the opponent wasn't bad, and wonders if he should have asked his name earlier. A voice behind him then simply says, "Palm." William spins around and stares at the figure, unable to believe his eyes. Palm warns William, "Remember this well. That'll be the last name you hear." William calls him a cockroach and says it's useless to bluff, but Palm admits, "I have to agree." Palm reveals a stone and claims it's almost impossible to defeat him with only 2 circles. William stares at the object and identifies it. It's a mana stone. He calls Palm a crazy bastard and asks, "Is your last hope to absorb the stone to level up?" Palm then calls William an idiot bastard and explains, "Just absorbing the mana stone won't make you level up." He agrees and says, "What you need is experience and knowledge." William's reaction is pure confusion. But then, a new magic circle forms, and energy takes shape around him with a devastating aura. Palm states that William doesn't need to worry and declares, "I already have enough of these things." William accuses him of trying to scare him with bluffs again, and rushes in for the attack. Palm just watches the approaching strike and stands firm, and then he launches a fire arrow. The attack forms into a huge blast, with unbelievable power. William's eyes go wide in shock as he recognizes the flame orb. Using his other hand to combine the attack with his telekinesis, Palm amps up the shot even more. The projectile spirals forward toward William, tearing through the air with fury. William takes a direct hit and spits blood. Completely engulfed by the blast, he screams Palm's name as the flames consume him. Palm watches him amidst the fire, his expression unchanged. As his opponent's body burns, Palm just comments, "I forgot to ask his name." In the forest, Kiri's down and wounded, and then the goblins charge in. Debo holds her close, but Kiri comments, "Things are getting complicated." He pulls out his weapon and glares at the enemies, ready for a fight. Debo rushes in, taking out monsters one by one, counting 16, 17. Kiri can't get how he's handling the enemy so easily. She's asking what the heck is going on. He declares he can see their movement patterns easily now, so he adjusts his stance. As he takes down another creature, Debo already hits 18. Then he unleashes a powerful strike against the goblin, putting his full force into it. The blow lands true, dealing massive damage. Kiri wonders what on earth she's looking at. A goblin shaman whips out the orbital flame, and Kiri is completely shocked. She can't get how a monster can use something like that. Hiding, she groans, because she never expected a monster to be able to use an item. She asks herself if they should just stay hidden until they find Palm and prays he's still alive. But then a group of goblins charges toward her and Debo. Kiri fends off one monster's attack, raising her sword. She reacts, counterattacking a goblin, but Debo gets hurled away. Kiri catches her partner and says, "I can't leave you behind," but Debo insists, "I can deal with them one by one." A massive explosion hits them with incredible force. The goblin shaman materializes and declares, "He won't be your opponent," and then another attack is launched their way. The energy sphere explodes on impact, a devastating aura. One of the goblins charges forward, closing in with a macabre grin. Two figures pop out of the dust, leaving one monster totally confused. Palm emerges from the smoke. The cavalry's here. Kiri, still on the ground, turns and stares at him. Palm lowers his head for a second and takes a deep breath. He spins his spear in a quick circle and gets ready. It's about to go down. From above, the shaman watches the goblin horde charge the newcomer and reacts. The shaman attacks one of his own goblins from behind, surprising everyone with that move. Kiri watches the scene unfold and calls him unbelievable. She wonders if Palm is really from the first circle, then watches as he goes all out on the goblin shaman. Debo also gears up to attack with his axe. He hurls his attack at the monster, going all out. The blow streaks straight across the battlefield, but the attack is repelled, sending both Debo and Kiri flying back. What power! Wounded, the goblin shaman struggles for breath. He preps a new spell with his staff, gathering a sinister energy. Palm steps in front of Kiri and says, "Get back, Kiri, I got this from now on." The monster unleashes a powerful blast of energy. As it closes in, the attack is intercepted mid-flight. The shaman watches the scene, clueless, and freezes, dumbfounded. Suddenly, his body is split in half. A fatal blow. Kiri stares at the scene, utterly shocked by what just went down. Palm says, "Looks like I wasn't too late after all." Abbas grumbles that 4 days have passed without a peep, so he announces he's gonna refuse defense missions from here on out. But then he spots a commotion in the distance and wonders what the heck that noise is. Suddenly a giant root smacks Abbas and he's like, "What the heck is that thing?" The enormous root writhes in the air, lunging forward like a living strike. A man rushes over, calls for someone else to fetch the bishop, and reports some people returned, but the gate's gone. Abbas hears the news and is stunned. He questions if they really made it back and stares at Palm, Kiri, and Debo, wounded on the ground. Palm's eyes snap open, and he wakes up. He wakes up in a bed and asks, "Where am I?" Abbas comments, "You're finally awake." Abbas warns him to spill the truth, then says only the 3 from the Garfer merchant group seem to have survived. He asks what happened inside the portal, and Palm repeats, "Only the 3 of us are left." Palm gets treated and regrets not imagining everyone else would die, but he's warned to answer properly. Palm reveals there was a demon in there, which totally throws the healer for a loop. He asks for a pencil and paper to draw what he saw, claiming he doesn't know the creature's name. Abbas reacts to the drawing on the paper, showing unease. A man shouts from inside a tent, "That makes 0 sense." The leaders of the merchant guilds are gathered, questioning, how did 100 elite people die in a red portal? Toriel, a rep from the Sky Merchant Guild, reveals his cousin was among the victims, and he tries to hold back his outrage. Abbas shows a drawing and explains that Palm described the portal's boss as a green ogre. The other men comment on this, saying green ogres can't use items, so it couldn't have been easy for 100 people to fight him. One of the reps refuses to accept the situation, his expression hardening. Franco, from Goldrich Merchants, steps in and declares, "There's no way my Natasha lost to a creature like that." Abbas questions, "What are you trying to say?" keeping his tone serious. Franco suggests there was foul play and says nothing else would make sense. Backing up the suspicion, Toriel claims the 3 survivors are from the same group, and someone could easily take advantage in there, you know? Ibaru butts in, declaring he can't stand hearing that garbage anymore and says maybe they survived because they had someone stronger. Franco reacts angrily, accusing him of implying the other guilds aren't as good as Garfor's, but Iburu retorts he's just telling it like it is, and the argument rages on, with both trading barbs and snide remarks about their guild's ranking. Abbas watches the scene and asks, "Are you two done?" Franco gets up from his chair and demands Iburu present proof of what he's saying. Iburu doubles down, stating they didn't bring any items out of the gate and had no reason to. Come on. Palm thanks them, says his goodbyes, and Abbas tells him to take care. A man next to Abbas leans in doubtfully and questions, "Is it really okay to let them go like that?" Abbas replies calmly and says, "They've already reached a conclusion." The group moves silently, walking through the forest. Suddenly a creature watches them from behind a tree. Kiri shows unease and asks, "Is that really following us?" The small creature stares at them, not looking away. She questions why he's hesitating and pushes for a decision. In a flashback, Palm explains the plan. Get rid of the items and injure themselves before exiting the portal. He recalls his choice at that moment and keeps his gaze steady. Inside the bag, an item shines and reacts without warning. The plan was to kill the boss and ditch the items, but Palm snagged one. It was the Phoenix Feather, an item that boosts fire magic power. Palm holds the glowing item, realizing he needs to get that unexpected score out of the portal. Kiri tries to warn him, reminding him that taking any unregistered item would raise suspicions of sabotage. She advises him not to be greedy and to stick to the plan, stating, "We already found the exit portal." Amidst the scene of destruction, the two talk and analyze the situation. Palm keeps his voice low, explaining that the snail is a pet that collects items and has no attack power. He reveals that it's a life form found after the portal opened in his past life and shares what he knows. Palm shows off the phoenix feather with the snail on his shoulder and watches her reaction. Kiri stares at the glow, surprised he managed to bring the item out, and he replies that he preferred to try something rather than leave empty-handed. She asks what he plans to do now and waits for an answer, but he just says, "Don't rush." Walking among the debris, Palm says they need to be careful gathering intel, so enemies don't hide even deeper. He states that the others must have returned by now, so he concludes they just need to wait. Elsewhere, it's revealed, multiple unions were annihilated, and the raid was a colossal failure. A man reports that everyone was killed by the boss and states that despite the suspicion of sabotage, the lack of evidence closed the case. He's relieved he wasn't exposed, even with the mission's failure, and is already prepping for the next one. Kneeling before a mysterious figure in a room overlooking a storm, he keeps his head bowed. His superior just asks, "You weren't caught?" The man reports that the plan was to kill everyone, and wonders if Palm would have any reason to hide something. He hypothesizes that Palm might have found out about the Black Wizard's followers, and wants to spread the info, making him tense. He states that if it's true, they need to eliminate their infiltrated members, but he's interrupted by an invitation before he can continue. Laughing at the idea of an invitation, the leader says he'll accept it. He decides to prepare something different for the occasion and keeps a calm tone. The leader declares they will be the first and the last guests, as he watches a huge marked creature emerge amidst the storm, emanating a sinister power. Debo recalls his past life was a hell and finally confronts his own past. He suffered with poverty, only able to watch his sister succumb to the black blood disease. Debo remembers he couldn't even make a grave for his family, and then he realizes that place was always a hell. Then, a woman appears before him and comments that someone was still left. She finds him among the rubble and offers help, but Debo just tells her to get lost, and so marks the first encounter between him and Aaron. Back in the present, a beast charges at the competitors. One of the warriors celebrates first place amidst the attacks and raises his fist. Then a young man laments not being 30 seconds faster, but comments that Debo seemed pretty cool, actually. Aaron strolls over and declares that with everything wrapped up, they can finally bounce. Debo watches Aaron, standing atop a pile of defeated monsters, and takes a deep breath. That year had been more than enough to completely change his outlook on life. His sole purpose now simply to help Aaron. Later on, some guy needles Debo, calling him Aaron's disciple, but Debo quickly tells them to cut it out. Someone gets antsy, wondering if a place like that could even exist in the Elness Mountains. From inside a house, a voice is practically begging for help. It's a young woman, explaining she desperately needs to find her brother in the treacherous abandoned mine in the Elness Mountains, practically pleading for rescue. But Aaron brushes her off without a second thought, stating she'd just be dead weight, and he doesn't take personal requests. Aaron tells the girl to go find another adventurer, even adding there's no guarantee her brother's still alive. Debo steps in, telling Aaron they're probably the young woman's last hope. He insists he wants to help her, promises to keep her safe, and asks his companion to reconsider. The group reaches a cave, a desolate scene greeting them, and moves forward on high alert. The girl spots a body on the ground, says it's not her brother but notes he wasn't killed by monsters. Someone comments that the body's been there for a week, and then suddenly seems to recognize him. Then a massive explosion explosion erupts from the cave floor. The impact sends debris flying everywhere, engulfing the entire area. Debo shields the young woman with his body, questioning what the heck just happened. Then a creature with glowing eyes bursts from the rubble and looms up, revealing itself as a Zakum. The creature roars and Debo yells to the girl, "Get behind me!" Eren charges forward, instructing him to attack from the left. Debo gears up for combat, declaring they'll finish this fast. Eren and the other warriors clash with the Zakum, exchanging precise blows. Meanwhile, Shannon watches the battle intently, analyzing every single move. After the showdown, Debo leans on his axe, commenting it was every bit as tough as the rumors claimed. One of the warriors asks about Shannon, and that completely catches Debo off guard. He glances at the cave entrance, wondering why she went off on her own. Eren commands everyone to brace themselves, sensing a powerful aura emanating from deeper inside. The others hesitate, muttering they sense something dangerous in there, but Debo declares he'll bring her back. He turns to push forward, but gets called out by the other warrior, who reminds him Debo's duty was to protect her. Debo declares he's going with her, his tone hardening. Eren insists that threat is her job and keeps his focus, but Debo says he's made up his mind and charges forward alongside Eren toward the cave entrance. They both find a lava pit inside and slow their pace. Deep down, they spot a giant chain tree and two people at its base, and the two exchange glances. One figure points the way, signaling them to follow. Debo rushes over to Shannon, who's next to a body, and calls out to her. Shannon confirms the body on the ground is her brother's, her voice trembling. Debo yells for her to stay put, promising to get her. She smiles, claiming she knew he'd come because he's a good person, but now there's no turning back. Shannon reveals Zakum means demon tree, explaining that giant tree is the real monster. Debo questions what she's saying and steps forward. Eren thanks her for the intel and eyes the tree. Debo tells Shannon to chill while he kills that thing, getting closer, advising her to hide unless she still has something to do. Eren narrows her eyes, questioning if she's using her brother as a sacrifice. Shannon pulls a jewel from his body, saying they still don't get it. The girl claims everything started the moment they stepped into this place, and she raises the jewel. The jewel cracks in her palm, vibrating as Shannon explains Zakum uses mediums, and they aren't limited to statues. Just then, the brother's body attacks Debo from behind. Eren turns, surprised by the sudden assault, and adjusts her stance. Then another body leaps to attack Eren from above, falling like a shadow. Debo gets wounded, turns around, and questions Miria about what she's doing. Miria accuses Eren of killing her friends, raising her voice. She continues, stating they only see them as targets for revenge. Miria announces now's the time for the grand finale, and she smiles darkly. The woman declares she must do her best to finish this performance, raising her hand, claiming this is how it must be done for the Dark Mage Lord. And Miria concludes everything with conviction. Debo silently questioned himself, unsure if Eren could face Zakum, but then Eren yelled for him to stop acting like a child. She made it clear, that's not Miria anymore. The possessed warrior stood tall, readying for battle, and Debo got the message. With adrenaline boost activated, Eren shot toward the enemy, unleashing a crushing cut, hitting the target without hesitation. Down and wounded, Eren lamented her choice. Then Debo charged at the possessed Miria. He attacked her, guilt evident in his voice, claiming it was all his responsibility. Debo threw his shield forward, apologizing to Miria. The possessed warrior's hand hovered near Debo's face, closing in, but then, attacking from behind, he surprised the opponent. The warrior, his voice weary, thanked him and asked Debo to take care of Eren. Debo gritted his teeth, struggling to stand firm. With effort, Eren got up, then she prepared to charge. She went straight for Zakum's main body, facing the danger head-on. Then, tearing through the air, one of Zakum's tree-like hands lunged fiercely at the warrior. Then Debo yelled, determined, "Together, we'll tear that thing apart." Joining forces, the two surged forward to attack the enemy, and multiple blows rained down on the statue from all sides, piling up. Debo struggled to hold the creature's arm, resisting its weight. Miria offered her life to the Almighty, then completely succumbed to control. Someone unleashed an energy arrow, launching the attack at the monster. Eren spun around, quickly realizing Debo was being corrupted. She declared only the statue remained, trying to keep her focus. Debo dropped to his knees, his weapons slipping away. Crying out in despair, he commanded, "Eren, kill me!" He begged her to hurry, terrified of doing something unforgivable. Eren braced for the strike, her hands trembling, and begged Debo for forgiveness. Debo smiled in his final moments, staring down fate. He recalled his comrades one last time, and Debo accepted the end. Pleading again, he implored, "Eren, don't hesitate!" He saw his sister in a delusion, completely lost in the vision. Debo saw her fallen, wondering why she was there and who had brought her. A mysterious figure emerged, and Debo demanded, "What did you do?" Snapping back to reality, Eren vowed to end this fast. Debo yelled he wouldn't forgive her for involving his sister, then completely lost it. He charged, axe raised, and attacked Aaron. Blocking the blow, she commented, "His senses are incredibly sharp." Aaron prepped for the final move, gathering all her remaining strength. She focused to finish the fight, holding her breath. Then Aaron unleashed the final blow. The Zakam statue stared down the imminent attack, but stood still. Rushing to intercept the strike, Debo threw himself in the path. Aaron realized this was the only shot, understanding she couldn't stop. With Debo's body blocking the monster, she struck him and apologized. The powerful blow hit Debo and the statue head-on, exploding in a devastating impact. Lying on the ground, Debo struggled to comprehend what was happening. Aaron smiled in relief, commenting, "Looks like you're finally back." Severely wounded, she expressed relief at being able to say goodbye. Debo shouted her name and asked, "Was it really you all along?" Desperate, he wanted to know why he hadn't been killed as he asked. Fallen, she revealed Debo was the true chosen one to stop the Black Mage, thanks to his extraordinary talent. Lamenting his own weakness, he said, "I can't get stronger like you." With a faint smile, Aaron handed the world into his care. She affirmed her belief in his success, but was breathing with difficulty. In her final moments, she called him her only disciple, and Debo tried to wake her. Aaron closed her eyes forever and passed on. Debo, after telling the heroes everything, abandoned that place. He recalled a hell, a place where he failed to protect his objective and redeem himself, reliving the weight of his own sins. In that distorted landscape, Debo stared at a distant figure. Then a powerful attack of unbelievable energy was launched against him. The attack generated an immense explosion, consuming everything around it. Waking up in a bed, Debo jolted awake, his body trembling. His sister entered the room, commenting, "You finally woke up. How was the nightmare?" Debo wondered if it was all just a dream, trying to remember, until his sister warned, "Someone came to see you." Slowly getting up, he walked to the door. Palm met him, informing him that the plans were moved up and he should prepare to leave. Debo, however, asked, "Don't we get any holidays?" In a meeting, a man questioned Palm if he escaped by gaining another circle, and he quickly confirmed it. Then the man questioned his intentions, trying to figure out what Palm was plotting. Iburu tried to pressure him, offering a reward for more info, but Palm simply refused the offer. Palm pulled out a wad of cash and immediately declared he'd pay off his debts. Iburu was shocked by the money, thinking right then, Palm wouldn't get that much without another trick up his sleeve, without another way out. So after congratulating him on his newfound freedom, the guy immediately tells Palm they need to terminate the contract. Done deal. Palm asks how much he wants for the sign-up bonus, and the guy replies, "That'll be 15 million mesos." Iburu immediately gets all worked up and snaps, "That's insane! Nobody would shell out that kind of cash for a C-rank adventurer." Palm stands up from his chair and straight up declares, "This conversation is over." Outside, Debo immediately asks, "So how'd the talk go?" Palm explains everything, telling Debo that Iburu rejected the sign-up bonus, all 15 million of it. Debo's shocked by the amount and calls Palm crazy, but Palm quickly denies it, not even flinching. Then Debo asks, "Why'd we end up here? You know this area?" Palm says he knows this slum extremely well and reveals, "This is where I lived and where my sister died, man." He explains the place turned into a bandit haven, then adds, "It's probably the worst spot on all of Victoria Island." Suddenly a guy gets tossed aside, hitting the ground with his partner. Palm and Debo stumble upon a group of bandits watching the scene unfold in the middle of the slum. The man on the ground laments his situation, saying he thought everything was going fine. Debo notes the fight just kicked off and immediately suggests, "We should bounce, let's just go around." But the man gets up and begs the approaching group for help, claiming they attacked him. He grabs Debo tightly, pleading for help, but the young man can only manage to ask, "What are you talking about?" The bandit leader approaches with a dominant stance and demands 3 million mesos, ordering, "Your brother stole and sold one of my items." Denying any theft, the man tells the bandit crew to clear out, get lost. The leader fumes at the response and immediately threatens the accused. Then suddenly, a wad of cash smacks the leader in the face, who gets totally ticked off and demands, "Where are the 3 million mesos?" Palm says, "I'll pay the debt. Now get out of here." Debo's completely perplexed by his attitude, not understanding a thing. Palm turns to the man, named Ralph, and tells him to follow along. As they walk, Ralph asks if Palm came to recruit him, but Palm replies bluntly, "I have neither the money nor the affiliation for that." Debo immediately gets furious and demands, "Give back the 3 million we just paid." Ralph replies unfazed and says, "I didn't ask anyone to pay for me." Debo's even more surprised, not knowing what to think. Ralph tries to negotiate and proposes, "For my skills, I'll join the group for 5 million mesos, deal?" Then a man approaches from behind and steps forward. He introduces himself as Beiju from the Kania Merchant Union and asks, I'm looking for Mr. Palm. Palm confirms his identity, and Ralph is speechless, totally shocked. Beiju expresses satisfaction in meeting him and immediately states, "Our union greatly values the skills you showed at the portal." Beiju then presents his proposal, an advance of 3 million and a bonus of 15 million for Palm to join the group. Ralph is stunned and immediately reacts to the amount offered to Palm. Palm accepts the offer without delay, and Beiju informs, "The raid will be in 3 days." Debo is thrilled, of course. Beiju throws a bag of money to Ralph and thus ends the negotiation. Palm explains that's the bonus Ralph had asked for, leaving Debo completely stunned by the cash. Unable to believe it, Debo questions the expense and asks, "Where are we going now?" Kiri shows up, arms crossed, watching the duo closely. Later, at the tavern, Debo asks, "Why's this loudmouth girl here?" But she states she only came to fulfill her promise. On a stormy day, the group gets ready to enter the portal and Kiri comments, "This is a good day for a raid." A woman gives the instructions informing 5 teams, totaling 50 people, will participate in the mission. Ralph complains right away. "So many useless people will reduce my payment." He's clearly super frustrated. Then Beiju, from the Kanya Merchant Union, informs, the portal this time is orange level. He believes 50 people and 5 marks will be enough, stating that clearing the portal won't be an issue. Palm, not expecting the union to call him to this place, deduces the followers must already be using the area for sure. Even with the time period being different from his past life, he affirms he won't change his plans. After all, Palm's cleared that portal before. The woman reinforces the protocol, asking, "All groups fire a flare if a second portal is found." Kiri tries to help, explaining, "The second portal leads to another dungeon and will have totally different monsters, so stay sharp." Debo tells Kiri to shut it and turns to Ralph. "Just because I hired you, that doesn't make you the leader, you know?" Ralph provokes back, replying, "The leader shouldn't be defined by skills alone, so what?" Palm tries to shut down the argument, suggesting, "Let's decide the leader based on each person's contribution within the portal." Ralph grins at the idea, thinking instantly, "The newbie fell into my trap. This is how I'll become the leader." And he comments, "This is going to be really interesting." Palm wishes them luck and watches the group of adventurers head into the portal, knowing the mission has finally begun. Then Debo turns around, irritated, and questions what he just heard, because one of the companions called him useless. Ralph cuts off any reaction, saying he won't do anything that doesn't make him money, even with the guy insisting on fighting. So Debo complains to the leader and criticizes hiring Ralph because, honestly, he's killing the team's morale. Suddenly, monsters ambush the group, and the leader screams, "Hold formation or we're toast!" Debo gets knocked down instantly, then one of the creatures crushes him. He's snatched up in the monster's maw, but uses his strength to keep its jaws from closing. Then Ralph whips around out of nowhere and nails one of his teammates with a kick. Kiri realizes the portal dumped them right into enemy territory and warns the group, while Ralph tells everyone to snap to attention. Palm figures out the situation doesn't jibe with his past life and realizes the monsters didn't attack them like this before. Kiri charges the creature and unleashes her Rising Sun attack, but the monster dodges at the last second. She attacks again but misses because the creature evades for a second time. Then the knight gets hit and hurled backward, and she's shocked she couldn't predict her opponent's move. Soon, Kiri is surrounded by several monsters, and she's in a serious jam. An explosion hits near her and catches her off guard from behind. Debo keeps fighting and tries to resist the creature, while Ralph advances onto the battlefield. Ralph intercepts the monster with a single blow and utterly obliterates it. He lands safely and surveys the scattered remains. Debo sees everything and hears Ralph comment, "That's 2 for me and 1 for the lady." And 1. Ralph states he'll continue with his mission and encourages them to keep doing what they're doing. Kiri watches him more closely and recognizes that the true abilities of a third circle are on another level entirely, an absurd tier. Then one of the creatures charges again and goes on the offensive. Ralph intercepts it with a direct punch and disintegrates it. He stares down the next creature and comments, "Its movements are erratic, but nothing more than that." He hits the monster's eye and states that the 2 kids are in good shape. Then the knight notices Palm controlling an arrow with telekinesis and admits his speed is greater than hers. Ralph turns to Palm and stares at him seriously. He holds another creature's mouth shut and admits Palm is definitely useful. He reflects on the situation and concludes that a 50 million contract fee isn't for just anyone, and the merchant union will pay even more in the future. Ralph sees himself in his mind and imagines sitting on a pile of cash after taking over leadership of the group. Kiri continues the fight and calls him a monstrous jerk because he's totally loving the situation. Ralph prepares for another attack and comments how thrilling all of this is. But then he's suddenly hit from behind by Palm himself. He gets hit again with a kick, and Ralph asks, "You want to fight, Palm?" Palm states he doesn't need thanks and ignores the provocation while monsters advance to attack Ralph. Suddenly, several projectiles tear through the field and take out the creatures for good. Palm spins around and asks, "Who's responsible for that attack?" Then, quickly, a horde of small creatures advances through the forest. Perched on a branch, a hooded archer prepares several arrows at once. He senses the threat and pinpoints its direction. He then rushes toward two approaching creatures. The arrows fired by the archer hit and eliminate both monsters on the spot. He observes the result and notes how quickly the magic was conjured. From afar, the hooded figure observes the scene, watching everything unfold. A fire arrow is launched against the archer, who is surrounded by trees. The attack hits its target and causes a massive explosion. Ralph is impressed and comments on the strategy of using a monster to block and counterattack. Debo warns, "Watch out." Palm turns around and reacts with surprise at what he sees. Then several arrows fly towards his back. The attack explodes, and Debo shouts for the boss. "Boss!" Palm wonders and tries to understand how the enemy appeared behind them out of nowhere. Since he was sure he had hit it, Kiri warns and says, "The place is dangerous, we need to fall back." Ralph questions the retreat order and asks, "Where are we going?" Countless projectiles rain down on the group. One of the men shouts for everyone to get out of there and tries to react, but the arrows keep falling non-stop. And then the attack directly hits two of the group's mercenaries. Kiri uses the solar slash to defend herself from the projectiles. She then turns around and yells at them to run into the forest if they want to survive. But one of the guys replies there's no way, because the enemies are already waiting on the path. Right then and there, a giant creature attacks one of the mercenaries. Suddenly, a path mysteriously opens up, right through the fire and the monster bodies. Ralph then declares he'll take the lead and prepares to push forward. Kiri yells at them to stop wasting time and run already. Debo warns the boss, saying they'll end up dead if they keep this pace. Palm launches a fire attack, going all out. The magic explodes with unbelievable force, and he yells at Debo to pay attention. The enemy archer gets surprised at being pinpointed instantly, so he concedes he really found him. He knocks more arrows and claims his lord's worries were indeed well-founded. Palm bids farewell, says he's sorry, and swiftly retreats. He moves through the trees, dodging multiple projectiles at an absurd speed. The enemy archer wonders, why is he so fast? Then he gets the picture. One person is missing from the group, the guy with the halberd. Then a massive fireball hits the archer. The attack violently explodes, devastating the forest. Palm emerges from the flames and declares he saw the attack firsthand. Debo rushes forward and comments, "That was great." He explains the plan, saying that the disguise swap worked perfectly thanks to the time he managed to buy. But suddenly, a massive, brutal projectile tears through him. Kiri spins towards him, and Debo's body drops right in front of her. Palm turns and watches what just went down. He then prepares for another attack, focusing an insane amount of energy. The attack blasts full force at the enemies, and one of them stares back, calling it impossible. Another mercenary gets hit, screaming for help. Kiri grabs Debo, pulls him along, and tells everyone to bolt as fast as possible. But one of the projectiles skewers through her leg, right as she's shielding him. The impact slams both of them to the ground hard. The knight writhes in pain from the wound. The enemy archer tells his men to stay focused while the duo tries to get out of the attack range. Ralph, now carrying both of them, grumbles about having to babysit the whole crew. The enemy claims they'll never escape his reach no matter how fast they run. He draws another arrow and zeroes in his aim. Then he notices something approaching. Kiri questions the plan, asking Ralph, and he replies that he just follows the boss's orders. No questions asked. The group sprints through the forest, keeping an insane pace, but they suddenly halt, encountering something totally unexpected. Before them, a second portal appears, and Ralph wonders if Palm knew its location all along. With a smile, he comments that they're alive thanks to Palm, and they can reach the portal before the arrows. Kiri asks if he intends to enter the portal without the boss, but Ralph believes that was exactly Palm's intention. He declares they'll enter the portal to wait. He prepares to move forward, but a projectile quickly approaches. The projectile violently explodes on the ground with absurd force. Debo is thrown to the ground, his weapon fallen right beside him. Ralph wonders how he was attacked from the front, while Kiri remains fallen and unresponsive. Then, a new massive attack slams into them, launching everyone away with an explosion of power. Palm then uses logs to block the portal entrance. An intense light appears, and suddenly the path to the portal reopens, revealing a passage. From a distance, the enemy archer watches the scene and calls the attacker a crazy bastard. Palm continues moving through the forest. Then, one of his projectiles hits and destroys yet another monster. The archer can't figure out why Palm isn't hiding, even though he knows he's being hunted. So he decides to test the target's limits, turning it into a game to see how long Palm can last. The archer remembers the day his master accepted him, reliving the brutal selection. 300 assassins battling it out until only 5 remained. The slaughter lasted 7 whole days, and since no one could even find him, he earned the title of Ghost. What unbelievable power, right? Suddenly, another projectile slams into the ground right near the archer. He instantly realizes he made yet another mistake and narrows his eyes, pissed. Then a fire attack grazes past him at absurd speed. Dodging again, he admits. Not a bad try. The archer knows Palm must have figured out his position with that attack and tries an immediate counterattack. But his arrows only hit a tree, leaving him stunned. Then the fire projectile returns right at him, catching him completely off guard. Hit squarely by the explosion, he grumbles about the cheap telekinesis trick, but Palm keeps pushing through the forest, unfazed. The archer, in response, fires another arrow. Only his attack collides with Palm's, creating an absurd explosion mid-air. Complaining like hell about the smoke messing with his vision, he tries to find the enemy. Then he fires an arrow against the incoming fire attack. Another explosion, even bigger, detonates. Falling to the ground, the archer yells, "You bastard!" But he gets back up, finding the situation quite interesting. Palm notices everything went quiet and gets really pissed. The bastard hit again. He figures out that the future changed when he entered the portal with 100 men, and now believes Kinna sent this assassin. So he screams, "Get out of your hiding spot, you coward!" But he's totally surprised to hear the archer's voice from the other side. The archer replies, "Let's stop wasting time. Hiding won't change a thing." He provokes shamelessly, "Do you prefer to fight or hide?" Palm wonders how the enemy got so close without being detected. Teleportation maybe. Or maybe he controlled the waves of his own movements. Genius, but annoying. The archer then declares, "I found you." Then he takes a stance to attack. A magical projectile with a devastating aura flies straight at Palm. The scene abruptly shifts. Now we're in a snow-capped mountain landscape. An intense light explodes, throwing the group back with insane force. Debo regrets leaving the boss behind, but Ralph immediately retorts, explaining it was all his own plan. Then, Debo stumbles upon a macabre pile of bones and skulls amidst the flames, freezing on the spot. He questions the number of bodies. There are way more than expected for a 3-mark portal. Kiri figures out it was all just a trick by those damn Kanya folk. How infuriating. A voice asserts itself, explaining that putting the clues together, Kanya is a follower of the Dark Mage. She concludes Palm was right about the bait, and Kanya lured a bunch of adventurers into the portal. Then the old leader interrupts the conversation, telling them to save it for later. Priorities, right? He points ahead and comments that the host of the place seems pretty pissed. And from the shadows, a giant shadowy creature emerges, revealing itself before them. With a terrifying aura, Kiri questions her own intuition, trying to figure out if that monster is really the boss of this place. Smiling ironically, the old leader comments that he'll have to pay back the loan in the end, and that everyone should consider themselves lucky. Ralph then reveals a card, stating he doesn't show that to just anyone. A sign of power. Called a scumbag and a damn fiend by others, he faces the comments without reacting. He doesn't care. He's known as someone capable of anything for money, and lives surrounded by rumors. But as an adventurer, he maintains top-notch skills. A true ace. Then he reveals himself as a healing bishop at the peak of the 3rd circle, and conjures his healing magic, an incredible power. Enveloping Kiri and Debo, the magic instantly heals their injuries. Watching the wounds close instantly, Debo holds his breath, shocked. He's surprised by the discovery, and figures out that Ralph's true battle class is Bishop. What a twist! Kiri realizes he fought the whole time without using his real abilities. A genius. With a slight smile, Ralph commands, "Get ready to earn your pay." The giant creature roars impatiently, marking the start of the epic confrontation. Challenging the monster, they provoke it. "Show us your skills, you monster." Smashing the ground with its fist, the monster forces the group to separate, scattering everyone. Scaling a rock to escape, Debo and Kiri try to gain distance, while he curses the creature non-stop. Opening its enormous mouth towards the two, the monster charges forward. Crushing the rocks with its jaws, the creature reduces their shelter to dust without mercy. Attacking the monster's face, Debo yells, "What are you looking at, you idiot?" Advancing steadily, Kiri delivers a powerful blow with her sword. Leaping again towards the enemy, Debo tries another all-out attack, but the monster hits Debo with a devastating slap, sending him flying far away. Opening his book, Ralph conjures a powerful blessing upon them. Strengthening Kiri, Ralph's blessing awakens an immediate reaction to the new force, an unbelievable power coursing through her veins. He warns that the ability will cost 100 mesos, and hears them both shout at the same time, "Go for it anyway." The giant monster takes a brief nap, then it lets its guard down for an instant. Ralph celebrates the feat and states it was a good fight against a tough bastard, saying they can now talk about payment. But the creature roars again, then it awakens impatiently. Debo complains about the smell and says he's going to put the monster to sleep. He and Kiri advance together, attacking the giant. Ralph observes the scene with a serious expression and starts to figure out something's wrong here. The monster towers over the adventurers and reveals its full imposing size. Meanwhile, Palm dashes through the forest, dodging a rain of projectiles. He keeps running, but he can't figure out where the enemy is shooting from. Palm remembers the archer's skill only lets them return to a preset point, and that's when he realizes his movements are impossible to track. The archer taunts him non-stop. Palm is so slow you're making me sleepy. He dodges a fire projectile and asks, where is Palm even aiming? And the archer warns, you'll suffer from mana shock if you keep burning through your skills like that. An attack explodes near the second portal, signaling Palm's failed escape attempt, something the archer doesn't hesitate to mock. Palm leans on the ground, realizing it'll all be over if he keeps trying to fight an enemy he can't even find. One of the projectiles finally hits him, knocking Palm to the ground. He realizes he doesn't have the luxury of calm thought, so he tries to react as the attacks keep coming. Palm decides to go all in and chugs a potion. He launches a flame orb, intercepting the barrage of enemy arrows. The attack speeds through the forest, and the archer calls Palm a fool. The enemy leaps to the side, dodging the magic's path, but he's shocked by what he sees next. 6 fire projectiles split off from the main orb, chasing him relentlessly. Sensing the risk, the archer gets the picture. Palm is trying to sacrifice himself by using a high-grade skill capable of causing mana shock. Palm struggles to maintain control of the magic and holds firm. He declares that if the enemy's secret is what he thinks, he's gonna drag them out by force, so Palm stays focused. The archer dodges the attacks and questions, how can Palm even shoot without knowing where I am? The projectiles chase him relentlessly through the forest. Palm holds his ground and states, I'm not done yet. The chase results in multiple explosions echoing throughout the entire area. He tells himself he needs to stay on his feet and tough it out, so he tries to stabilize himself. The archer calls Palm a crazy idiot and doubts, you really think you're gonna hit me with an attack like that? And he declares Palm is doomed to be sealed, guaranteeing he'll die from mana shock. But Palm rises amidst a gigantic magical fire formation. The archer questions what's happening and recoils. He realizes the entire area is ablaze and gets it. Palm planned this all along. Feeling the danger closing in, the archer admits he'll be burned if he stays there. He spots an open field and runs towards it to escape the flames, but then he suddenly stops, finding the appearance of the open field extremely suspicious. Yelling, no! He tries to reverse his decision. Realizing it was a trap, the archer decides to turn back. He turns around and questions the identity of the figure in front of him. The archer moves abruptly and tries to react. He's hit from behind by a barrier and screams for his brother. Palm appears behind him, attacks him with his weapon and says, take that! The archer collapses to the ground, winded, and he knows he's in deep trouble. He scrambles desperately across the burning ground. Then he gets the picture. There's no way he's ever escaping this. Suddenly he turns around and things get super freaky. Something gigantic is approaching. Then an enormous barrier materializes right in front of him, shielding him from all that devastating fire. He gets up instantly, but his head is spinning. Where's his brother in all this chaos? He needs to find him. He runs blindly. But then he takes a surprise attack. It's his own brother attacking him from the side. The archer yells in his face, outraged, you half-dead bastard! His brother attacks, screaming, wanting the archer dead, and then he manages to land a heavy blow. The protective barrier shatters completely and simply vanishes, leaving him exposed to hell. He runs through the flames, but he's completely lost, not getting anything about what just went down. He watches the scene, and his surprise is total. His face says it all. Then he finds his brother's body fallen in the middle of the fire and screams his name. Desperate, he rushes to his brother and pleads, hang in there! He holds his brother in his arms and laments, we dragged this fight on for too long, man. But there's no way around it. We need to recover the phoenix feather. Then, right in front of him, his brother's figure transforms. It's Palm, that jerk in disguise, and he attacks without mercy. The blade slices through the air with unbelievable power and pierces the archer's body, a devastating blow. Palm lets out a long sigh of pure exhaustion, trying to catch his breath. That was wild. He watches the fallen bodies amidst the fire and lets out, ugh, I'm sick of these archers. The gigantic ice creature towers over the group, dominating the cavern. It roars with power. Then the monster lunges with a mighty blow, but Ralph intercepts it instantly, calling the monster too slow, and charges in with a punch. The blow lands on the creature's face and reverberates through the ice. Then Ralph pulls his hand back and wonders why the monster is so tough. Then the creature brutally grabs him and starts squeezing, pulling curses from Ralph, who immediately gets the picture. Kiri attacks from above, unleashing her solar slash and saving her comrade. "That makes us even," she declares. Ralph receives a healing spell and the area glows for moments. The group advances together, enveloped in an aura of recovery that promises more beatdowns. Ralph shouts for Debo to cover the rear and tries to coordinate the attack. Debo turns, confused, and questions where, but he's blindsided by a blow. The monster attacks again, forcing Ralph to tell Debo to draw its attention so he can get close and lay into it. They aim for the great sword plunged into the ice, focusing on the creature's weak point. Debo yells for everyone to advance fast and takes the lead in the charge. Kiri and Debo attack the creature together, making it roar in pain. Debo runs along the monster's arm and instantly realizes it's not just some giant idiot. The creature lunges forcefully, trying to crush the group without mercy. Crushing its fists together, the monster creates a boom that shakes the entire cavern. Kiri yells at Ralph to use his heel and loses ground in the combat arena. The creature smashes the ground with another punch, making everything tremble with unbelievable force. Debo is thrown far, launched by the devastating impact, and Kiri screams his name in obvious despair. Ralph warns he only has 4 more heals and declares they need to dodge now. Promising to find an opening, he commands, "Everyone spread out." Ralph complains about having to heal right after telling them to dodge, but casts the spell anyway, because that's just how it goes. The heal hits Kiri, who faints instantly, and Ralph laments the wasted magic. The monster charges through the ice cavern, advancing relentlessly. Debo is crushed against an ice wall and loses his breath, feeling raw pain. He falls to the ground, gravely wounded, with his life hanging by a thread. Suddenly, Debo is sitting in a chair and asks about the circular. Palm says Debo needs to understand the fundamentals and tries to instruct him, but the young man replies, "It depends on how you think and what you want to achieve." Palm takes a sip of his drink and states that experience changes for each person and his wouldn't serve as a guide, so Debo needs to figure out his own path. Debo asks what he should do, and Palm says he needs to find his own key, whether in understanding mana, in knowledge, or even in an unforgettable memory capable of making the heart pound and power bloom. Back in battle, Debo's eyes open, filled with a new and burning determination. Debo unleashes his explosive slash and hits the creature with full force in an attack of pure fury. Ralph watches the scene and is shocked because Debo cut the ice creature with a single blow. Ralph instantly wonders what the hell happened to the kid. Debo keeps up the attack with his axe, keeps dishing out blows, while Ralph questions, "Did the kid level up?" "No way." Scrambling across the creature's body, Debo pushes toward the sword lodged in the monster's chest, aiming for its weak spot. He strikes the blade with brutal force and directly hits the creature's power core. Now its days are numbered. The creature roars in agony, trying to resist, but Ralph congratulates him. "Good job, Debo." He tells Debo to get up and conjures another healing spell in a last-ditch effort. The heal hits Debo, but the monster strikes him right after, giving no quarter. The creature grabs Ralph with its massive hand and lifts him off the ground, crushing him. Squeezed by the enemy, Ralph calls Debo a damn idiot for worrying about him right then. "You imbecile." Energized by the heal, Debo prepares to deliver the final blow and finish this. He rips the sword from the ice and charges the creature with all his might in a decisive attack. The monster's core violently explodes and shatters, ending the battle with a hard-won victory. Kiri finally opens her eyes near the campfire. Debo announces she's awake. She then asks if they're still alive and what went down with the monster. Debo explains he tried to eat the creature's meat out of pure hunger. He had no choice but to wait, because there's no escaping that portal. He also mentions the hide helped him rest a bit, and then he tells Kiri to rest too, because he needs to get out of there for a moment. Debo leaves the cave's shelter. He walks alone through the frozen, mountainous landscape. The heavy snowfall comes down, but he presses on. He realizes the day is gone and feels like he can't focus anymore. Then, suddenly, he stumbles upon a gigantic paw right in the middle of his path. A massive monster emerges, roaring with absurd ferocity. Debo just comments that he figured this would happen, and then he charges at the creatures, complaining they keep getting in his way. Back in the cave, Kiri gets up and immediately asks, "You're back already? Where's the exit?" She gets startled seeing him wounded, but Debo just says he ran into some critters on the way, no big deal. Kiri asks if there are still monsters out there and insists she's coming with him next time because it's too dangerous. She declares someone needs to look after him after all. They're still companions. Debo then shushes her, explaining that even if they steer clear of the same places, it's safer for just one person to risk it. He tells her not to sweat her energy and just rest. Still on the ground, he keeps pushing himself to his feet, and then he flashes back to the brutal battle against the creatures. He single-handedly faced down a whole monster horde, right on a cliff edge. Mid-fight, he pauses a beat, gasping for air, griping about the intense cold. Suddenly, one of the creatures rushes him. The monster leaps and chomps down with brutal force, but Debo manages to smash the creature's head into the ground. Collapsed over the monster's body, he admits it was way too dangerous, and he genuinely thought he was a goner that time. He glances over and spots someone in the distance. He finds a man sitting in the snow and quickly realizes he's not a corpse. Debo takes the man's hand, who's clutching an object, and notes he doesn't seem to have been dead for long. The man entrusts him with a letter he was clutching. As a reward, he offers his gloves, saying the warrior mastery class would be a huge help. The letter spills the beans. They fell into a Kania trap, and his comrade was taken out by the terrifying snow yeti. The letter goes on to reveal the man found the exit portal. But, bummer, it was a special portal that only activated after the boss was down, and the letter even had a map to other portals. The final request was for Debo to deliver the letter to the man's home. At his comrade's gravesite, a sword was plunged into the snow. Debo starts following the tracks left in the snow. He finds the exit portal, and Kiri's already there, waiting. With Ralph slung on his back, the young man approaches the portal beside her. He turns one last time to the snowy landscape. Then, they step through the portal and emerge in a forest. Debo asks what the plan is now, since they need to regroup. Then, a hooded figure appears saying, "I figured this might happen." The person observes the bodies left behind and questions, "Did the Phantom actually lose?" Debo gets that they're from Kania and knows he can't handle them in his current state. One of the hooded figures warns, "Don't worry, we'll finish this in a blink." Kiri charges one of them with her sword, yelling, "Stay back!" The hooded figure then hurls several daggers that strike Kiri dead on. She flinches, feeling the pain of the blows. Debo then shouts her name as the opponent closes in. Facing the figure before him, he holds his ground. A powerful, devastating light erupts. A strike shoots forward, piercing the enemy straight through. Kiri watches the attack graze past her. That blow takes out all remaining enemies in one go with unbelievable power. Another hooded figure takes a direct hit. Debo and Kiri are left standing amongst the defeated opponents. He cracks a smile and says, "Man, I really didn't want to have to say that." Palm then raises his staff, asking, "Missed him much?" Debo suggests they just let it be. And then someone chimes in that since they're already running late, they might as well go grab some beers. Meanwhile, in another location, Awakens is chilling next to her massive chained beast, noting that some skilled individual popped up, but nobody knows who's behind it. She figures a real stir is gonna happen among the crowd, and she's already bracing herself for what's next. Suddenly, Beiju dashes into the room, announcing Palm's return, and asks what to do about the contract. With a stone-cold expression, Awakens just flat-out orders, "Kill him." That order stops Beiju cold, leaving him speechless. Beiju argues that Palm isn't alone and tries to protest, but Awakens immediately cuts him off. "We can come up with an excuse later." Intrigued by this new info, Awakens demands. Beiju explains he's with other people, and right on cue, Palm walks into a new setting. Sitting at the table, Ralph grumbles that the food tastes awful. Debo immediately snaps at him not to diss his sister's cooking, and Shannon even offers Kiri more, who thanks them for the meal. Debo mutters, thinking to himself that this was exactly why he didn't want to bring Ralph along. Kiri comments that Kania must have already caught wind of the news, and for her sister's sake, it's best they stick together. Palm walks into the room, immediately asking how everyone's doing, but Debo instantly snaps back, demanding to know where he's been. Ralph jumps in, saying this is the perfect time since he wants to hash out the reward split. Ralph demands the extra 7 million mesos, but Debo immediately asks if he's lost his mind, wanting to go to Kania for cash in a situation like this. Debo accuses Ralph of claiming he defeated the Snow Yeti by himself, when in reality he just slept while Debo was looking for a way out. Kiri mentions she heard Palm also fought a pair of assassins. Ralph scoffs. "Anyone got proof of that?" And Debo immediately calls him a punk. Kiri asks Palm what his next move is, and he confirms Kania will definitely try something again. Then someone bangs on the door from outside, immediately asking, "How long do you plan on keeping me waiting?" Shannon opens the door, totally shocked to see who's standing there, then asks, "Who are you?" Debo and Kiri also react in shock at the man's arrival. Abbas demands, "Tell the punk who just walked in to hurry it up." In a dark location, a scarred man barks an order, "Fix this mess." Sitting in his office, Abbas clutches his head, totally frustrated with everything going down. Then he hears a noise coming from his office door. Abbas comments that the negotiation with Kania didn't go so well, but Palm immediately drops the bomb that they offered him 15 million mesos if he passes the test. That news leaves Abbas visibly tense, so Palm asks, "Did you just come here to brag?" And with no answer, he gets up to take off. But Abbas finally gives in and offers Palm a 16 million meso contract for him to sign. Palm flashes a subtle smile, showing his move paid off. He signs the document, and Abbas asks, "Are we officially partners now?" Then he suggests, "Let's be honest with each other." Palm spills the beans on the plot. Kanya is the real culprit, and the test portal was actually a deadly trap for them. Abbas reacts in shock and quickly gets the picture. Kanya only contacted them to try and get rid of the evidence. So Palm declares with full conviction, "This time I'm going to take down Kanya." Abbas asks, "Are you satisfied with that?" Palm states his testimony is the only proof he has, and they can simply deny everything and make the evidence disappear. Abbas reflects that he can easily manipulate public opinion. After all, the other merchant unions need a scapegoat for the portal's failure. And he concludes that, even so, Kanya can still be completely destroyed. So, instead of just taking them down from their positions, they can wipe them off the map once and for all, forever. Elsewhere, a mysterious figure is informed that the Dark Wizard's followers are starting to move, a spreading threat. Abbas meets with Toriel and Franco, and when asked about the reason for his visit, he states, "I came to apologize." He explains there was a small misunderstanding, and that Palm acted rashly for being too young and impulsive. Abbas declares that Palm is Gafor's official business partner, and then apologizes for him having stolen from them. Beiju agrees not to receive the promised fee in the contract, and Abbas says it's all good, no problem. Then Abbas explains that, due to this shocking incident, he realized how valuable human life is, and decided he's going to treat people how they truly deserve. He grins widely, and he states he'll have skilled guards on standby all the time, ensuring Palm's group's total protection. Beiju listens intently, as Abbas continues, praising their good teamwork. Truly something to behold. Abbas declares with a serious air, if anyone even tries to harm Palm or his members, they'll have to fight the entire Gafor Merchant Union too, and that's a promise. Faced with this declaration, Beiju remains silent, processing the sudden turn of events. Debo totally loses it. 16 million gold? That's unbelievable. Kiri then gets it and questions Palm. "What kind of magic did you even use to convince the Gafor Merchant Union to send us bodyguards?" Ralph, of course, is quick to praise Palm, saying he's a beast at business, but the kid just tells him to stop the drama. And seeing the guards outside, Ralph immediately starts to brag, saying nobody in the world of Maple compares to him. He calls himself the jack of all trades, capable of healing, protecting, and leading. And Palm, of course, sarcastically agrees that he's the best of the best. Then Ralph turns, points at Debo, and blurts out, "Hey kid, you're a monster, what the hell are you?" Debo is totally floored without understanding anything. Ralph then explains, even though he was unconscious, Debo single-handedly took down the boss. There's something about him that just can't be explained. Kiri remembers the fight against the Hobbs and thinks, did he go crazy while he was out cold? Debo tries to figure things out, but only remembers a bizarre dream. He describes a strange woman in his dreams, and sometimes they get into fights, as if they've known each other forever. And the worst part is he always forgets her face upon waking, only remembering she uses a gun. That totally catches Palm off guard. The gun and the dream together leave Palm with a bad feeling. He becomes visibly tense. It clicks instantly. Before the regression, everyone knew Debo and Aaron were a couple. Palm then starts to wonder what's going on, if he screwed up big time by changing the past. Then Ralph just shouts, "Idiot!" And Ralph keeps going, eyeing Palm. "The same goes for you." He caught on to the circle fast, and now Ralph understands why Gafor is hot on his heels. Then he turns to Kiri, who stares back without fear. Ralph assesses her. She knows the ropes, she's smart, and that's not bad for a second circle. But he states flat out, there's nothing about her that makes her stand out from the crowd. He explains that the job now is to infiltrate Kanya, and he'd love for her to get back to her duties. Ralph's words leave her completely shaken. Kiri continues on, approaching an imposing and grand building. Upon entering, she finds a man and blurts out, "I landed a cool gig these days." Sir Kasim greets her with a smile, saying he hasn't seen her in a while. She asks if he's going to talk to the master, and he confirms casually. Kasim catches on that she's lowered herself to an explorer group, and even scoffs, "This must be the perfect place for you." He tells her to go ahead, because the master is waiting for her in the office. Kiri arrives on a balcony and finds her master. The man, with his back turned, asks right off the bat, "Do you want to quit?" Kiri says she can't explain the problem now, but the master immediately asks, "And when would that someday be?" He then orders her to report every 3 weeks on what's happening in the explorer group. The master reminds her not to forget her discipline and her position as an eternal knight of the Cygnus. Back with the group, Kiri explains to Ralph that she can't go back to the master without having accomplished something, because one of her loyalists is there, among the knights. She declares she doesn't need money and will improve, she just needs some time. Ralph calls her immature and asks, "Are you really sure about this decision?" Debo and Curie react to what he says, and Ralph questions, "What the hell are you talking about?" Palm thinks it's going to be hell for them if she goes off on her own looking for the loyalist, given the way she is. Palm turns to Ralph, questioning him about saying she lacked skill, and then blurts out, "I need to add something here." He notes that Ralph seems all confident, but reveals he's not the only one disappointed with the team's level. Palm explains he sent them to the second floor believing they'd handle it, but without Debo everyone would have been toast. Ralph argues that the Snow Yeti wasn't just any enemy, but Palm stares at him and asks, "Oh really?" Then Palm drops the bomb on the whole group. "I've hunted a Snow Yeti all by myself." The revelation leaves Ralph, Curie, and Debo in total shock, jaws dropped. He clarifies that this was before the regression, and he himself would have beaten the crap out of the creature if everything had gone as planned. Palm explains he had no choice but to change everything, because Kanye's assassins were way tougher than he expected. Ralph immediately calls him a liar, questioning, "How would you do that being a slave?" But Palm just asks, "Don't believe me?" Then he gets closer and inquires, "Want me to prove it?" Ralph backs off saying there's no need, and immediately retorts, "So that means you don't need me either?" The kid simply cracks a smile. Soon after, he warns the group they need to get stronger and fast because there's 1 month left until the next raid, and then he declares bluntly, violence is the only way. In another room, Beiju bows and reports things didn't go as planned. He informs Aaron that the spy didn't dig up much and that the negotiation might have been a trap from the start. Sitting beside her beast, Evron merely murmurs a name, Gafor. She comments that they haven't been a nuisance and that eliminating them will be a cinch when that day comes. Evron asserts that their enemy is only the Maple Association. After all, a beef with merchant unions wouldn't require the Superior's help, but she reveals a bad feeling, questioning, did he do all this with just Gafor's support? Beiju stays silent, offers no response. Evron orders, "Get me more info on Gafor," and Beiju vanishes into the shadows to carry out the order quick as lightning. He watches her disappear, while in his head, only one name echoes, Palm. He hopes Palm proves to be a worthy adversary, someone worth challenging. In a sun-drenched forest, the group kicks off their training. Ralph hits the ground, and Curie immediately asks, "What kind of magic are you even using?" Palm walks over and asks, "What's the problem now?" With a sly grin, he challenges them to land a punch on him. He leaps, dodging their blows, and declares, "Land one punch on me and training stops right now." Further off, Debo is already pissed off with all the racket. He yells, "I can't concentrate with all this yelling." Debo punches a stone dummy, questioning himself, "Why the hell do I have to train like this?" Palm explains he needs to consciously try to use the power that emerges when he blacks out, even if he doesn't know if it's possible. But he adds, "It'd be quite interesting if he pulled it off, huh?" Debo goes back to training but keeps wondering, is this really going to make me stronger? Ralph, face bruised, questions if this is even training. Debo then laughs at the situation, and Palm bluntly explains he just adjusted the difficulty to his circle level. Then Shannon asks if it's okay to leave her sister behind, but Ralph quickly reassures her, saying there are guards with her. That said, Debo approaches Palm and lets him know he needs to talk about something. He then shows a letter with a ring, explaining it's a relic that helped him escape and that he now wants to return. Palm observes the object and instantly recognizes the cross ring. Debo then asks Palm what the hell that is. Palm takes the letter and states he already has an idea. He tells Debo he'll sort everything out and tells the kid to go to bed early. And then Palm warns, starting tomorrow, Debo will also join this training. Later, in a forest clearing, Curie trains alone, unleashing powerful blows with her sword. Exhausted, she stops for a moment, just to catch her breath. Suddenly, Kasim appears, surprising the girl, and drops a bombshell. She has no talent whatsoever. But Curie continues her training, brandishing her sword with even greater force. In the dead of night, Palm advances silently down an empty street. His shadow stretches across the door in front of him. He stops before the entrance and watches the door slowly open. Someone peeks through the crack and asks directly, "Who are you?" Palm introduces himself as the mailman, holding the letter. He then recalls the portal destruction incident. An entrance was destroyed, and the guards sent to investigate simply vanished. But the portal reappeared, very close to its original location, and after that, no more portals were destroyed. That's when Palm figures out the truth, understanding who was behind it all. And seeing the door open, he also grasps the reason behind everything. Palm enters the location, staff in hand. A man then asks, "How did you discover this place?" A woman, still in the shadows, demands in a chilling voice that he explain himself in exactly 5 seconds. The group then reveals themselves. They are the famed cross hunters. Palm finally understands They were the secret organization that destroyed the portal, making a noble sacrifice that would go completely unnoticed. A woman from the group holds the dagger with the ring. Palm states he came to return what they lost, but he figures they're not exactly in the mood to reward him. The woman then begins the countdown, starting from 5. Maintaining a firm tone, Palm says he came to tell them a shortcut after all. Wasting time isn't good for him either. As weapons are pointed at him, Palm explains he can't simply say how he knows of that place, but he drops a bombshell. If they kill him, the information will go straight to the basement of the dreaded Edelstein assembly. Palm states that's precisely the spot where their leader will be exposed. The woman then furiously demands, "Who the hell are you?" With a smile, he greets her, calling her Cheryl. Correcting himself, Palm says maybe he should ask. Long time no see, isn't it? He then recalls the past, remembering they used to be friends in another life. Cheryl joined the resistance after the Cross Hunters disbanded, and they fought countless battles side by side. They remained together until that day, the day she sacrificed herself for him. Back in the present, Palm says he's going to make good on that debt and get straight to the point. He then asks Cheryl to pull out the cunning branch, because it's already been exposed to the followers. Next, he reveals he snagged something pretty recently. Showing a hand that belonged to the Khania Merchant Union, he makes it crystal clear what he found. Cheryl questions what it means, threatening him, "If you're trying to mess with me, you won't like it." Palm just asks her to look at her own hand first. A symbol appears on her skin, and she immediately recognizes a follower's tattoo. Someone from the group confirms that's a Khania follower's symbol. Cheryl realizes the follower's existence just went public big time. Demanding clarity, she asks, "What do you want?" "And I want an answer that's not nonsense." Palm states all he needs is information, that's it. After the conversation, the hideout door closes. Ralph then asks Cheryl, "Do you believe him?" But she shoots back. He's super suspicious, and this could be a trap. Outside, Palm decides he'll first pretend to fall for the trap. Thinking about the play, he realizes he got something unexpected, beyond the information he needed. Palm wonders if Khania is changing plans precisely because he altered the future. That's settled, he declares. The next destination is Nautilus, and then a gigantic ship emerges from the waters. Debo could hardly believe his eyes, taking in the port's magnitude. He joined the group, super hyped for action, and then realized an entire month had already flown by. Abbas, sitting at the table with Palm, cut straight to the chase. "Choose." He threw down a list of portals Khania coveted and questioned, "Isn't it time we made our move?" But Palm stayed silent, just evaluating each option with a calculating gaze. Abbas, already annoyed by the hesitation, shot back, "You're scared, aren't you?" That's when the young man finally announced his shocking pick, the Eagle Eye's tomb. Abbas was in total shock with the choice, and immediately questioned if Palm had any idea what a mess he'd gotten himself into. That place was notorious, directly linked to Chiron, Nautilus's legendary captain, and her disciple Leah, the feared Eagle Eye. After all, the portal wasn't a portal, but a somber memorial to Leah, who met her end there. Abbas made it clear the tomb was considered impossible to clear, but Palm just confirmed Khania wanted to take on the challenge. Just then, Rakan walked into the room and cut into the conversation, asking Palm where he'd gotten that bombshell info. He explained he'd had the idea to give a gift, a new beginning for everyone. Then Rakan reached out and handed over the gift. They were none other than 2 phoenix feathers, items made by the legendary Gafor. Rakan then cracked a smile and wished everyone good luck. Debo quickly figured out they now had 4 phoenix feathers, and Palm guessed Rakan was saying, between the lines, that their collection had to be epic. Palm explained they were still waiting for the rest of the crew, and Debo got super curious about who they were. Palm then bellowed, "Oh, you drunken whale!" A massive man, Iburu, appeared carrying a giant sack, greeted everyone, and Debo immediately asked what he'd brought. Iburu explained it was the boss's order, and Kiri grumbled that on top of everything, he even made him deliver it personally. Kiri put on his new gear and immediately commented it was much lighter than he expected, feeling like he wasn't wearing anything at all. Iburu revealed the material was snow yeti leather, and the boss had left it for Kiri to use. Debo decided he wanted one too, and Iburu said that was the reward for clearing the portal. He added that only he knew how rare the item was, but they didn't need to worry, and there was still an extra vest. Iburu then offered the vest to Palm. Palm didn't get the hint, but Iburu immediately warned, "No time, go change now." Elsewhere, a guy with braids kept complaining non-stop that he was super bored. Meanwhile, the legendary ship Nautilus approached the coast of a tropical island. On the beach, 2 guys saw someone arriving and announced, "Here they are." A crew member praised Miss Manhwa for her effort, and she just commented that the ocean air was the best there was. Then someone shouted at the top of their lungs, "Miss Manhwa did it!" Everyone celebrated her triumphant return. After all, she had soloed an orange rank portal and even dealt with the chaos of the invasions. But the captain, with her back turned, just shot back. Manhwa questioned the decision, arguing they had cleared a portal for 200 people, and a 74-person one would be a piece of cake. She asserted she was much stronger than the Eagle Eye of that era, so there was no reason to refuse. Chiron then asked if she was talking back to her, and if that should be considered pure insubordination. The young woman then threw Leah's vengeance in her face, asking how much Chiron had really tried. The captain just repeated the order and told Mineru to get out of there. Mineru fell to the ground, defeated by the sheer force of that command. At the tavern, Mineru wondered if she should just ignore everything, go there, and rip down the wanted posters. One of her companions tried to calm her down, saying that just meant the captain loved her, and it was pure overprotectiveness. Just then, another man ran up to them, yelling there was a huge problem, and she needed to go right away. He announced that someone had removed the wanted posters from the Eagle Eye's tomb, and Mineru was completely shocked. Her companions then wondered what the heck those mainlanders were and why on earth they'd taken down the posters. Palm and his group were already walking together down a long, sinister corridor. Debo immediately complained about the vibe of the place, saying he felt like complete crap. Kiri explained they were in their territory and wouldn't be surprised if they were shot on sight for ignoring an unwritten rule. She detailed that the Nautilus rules were simple. Whoever ripped down the wanted posters got total priority in invading the portals. Just then, a woman approached and questioned them point blank. Mineru stormed forward furious and screamed at the top of her lungs, "Who do you think you are taking my poster?" Palm asked why she hadn't taken it down earlier, and she replied she didn't have permission yet. Palm said he didn't recall needing permission for something like that, but she insisted she did because Captain Chiron was her mentor. Mineru then blurted out that they were stupid and that Nautilus wanted posters were only for pirates. One of Palm's men added that non-pirates couldn't just show up and do that at every Nautilus portal. Debo then spat out the drink in his mouth in sheer astonishment. He started laughing his ass off at the situation, and Mineru told him to stop right away. Debo then challenged her, asking what she'd do if he didn't want to stop laughing. That's when they introduced themselves. They were the Iburu pirates. Iburu chuckled at the situation, crumpling a paper in his hands, finally getting the picture. Mineru quickly declared they couldn't just call themselves pirates, because there was a whole procedure for that. Debo retorted that being called fakes pissed him off, so he reaffirmed, "We are real pirates." Then Iburu introduced himself and laid it all out. Never heard of Captain Iburu and his pirates? But Mineru countered, arguing that just because they were with Iburu, a real pirate, didn't mean the whole group was pirates, and accused him of forcing the issue. Other pirates then concluded that the rest of the group weren't pirates, leading Debo to question who dared talk back to him. Mineru noticed someone just arrived. She turned to the newcomer, called him Mr. Murath, and asked him straight up, "What's all this commotion?" Palm claimed he'd never heard of Murath and declared they weren't breaking any rules. Murath explained Chiron was responsible for the posters and the judgment, then asked where the rest of their group was. Palm replied that all 5 of them were already there, but Debo questioned how the man could see them, since that was a 74-person portal. Murath found the situation suspicious and asked for his name. Hearing Palm, another pirate reacted and asked his comrade, "You know him?" The pirate remembered hearing about him, identifying him as the survivor of the legendary 100-person red rank portal. Debo commented on the portal, saying he thought most had died, and then he figured out the play. These guys weren't ordinary, then he just threw it out there. So what? The pirate immediately shot back that their invasion failed, and they barely survived, calling them cowards, while Debo asked, "Why are you yelling, my comrade?" Another pirate defended Mineru, saying she cleared a 200-person orange rank portal, which would make her much better, but she just thought they were making an unnecessary fuss. Murath then understood the situation and stated, "He's one of you." Proposing a deal, he said, since they grabbed the poster first, they could keep priority if they gave up the other 69 spots. Debo started to refuse, but Palm cut him off right away and accepted the proposal. Palm set the condition, 100,000 mesos per person, for a maximum of 10 people. Elsewhere, a man questioned Mineru, "Are you serious?" and said she was just guaranteeing they wouldn't die. The man handed her a wad of cash, stating he had no time and would do whatever he wanted, then begged Chiron's forgiveness later. Mineru was steel-willed. She wasn't letting anyone else get that portal, no way. Back to the negotiation. Ralph questioned irritably, "Why did you say that, Palm?" He yelled that giving up 10 out of 69 spots cost them 690,000 mesos, and told Debo to go say they changed their minds. Kiri intervened, warning there would be too many of them if they did that, but Ralph said to just destroy them, no mercy. Palm stated he couldn't change his mind, because their current objective was something else entirely, something far grander. Their goal is to assassinate Mineru, Captain Chiron's second disciple, and they plan to do it at Eagle's Eye, the exact spot where the first disciple died. Chiron was completely shattered, going into shock and isolating herself after losing her second disciple in the same portal, and the followers seized this chance to wipe out the Nautilus pirates. Palm got some hot intel that Kanya moved money to the Nautilus, so he has to limit the number of people on the invasion to guarantee her safety. He also needs to reduce his mana consumption, no matter what, to avoid making the same mistake again. Ralph gripes about the lost money, but then tells the other guy to shut up. Certain Palm has a plan up his sleeve, and then he wonders why he's even tangled up in all this. Under the moonlight, the ship glides majestically across the sea, while a seagull soars freely above the waters. Back in his room, Palm hears a knock at the door. Opening it, he asks, "Who's there?" The guy has a sudden reaction, a complete shock when he sees who it is. Finding the visit completely unexpected, he invites them inside. Captain Chiron and Mirath enter the room. Chiron questions him about what he's doing there and says she needs to confirm something crucial, asking him not to lie. Then she asks him directly, no beating around the bush, "Are you a follower of the Dark Mage?" Palm wonders how Chiron knows about the followers, and if the future suddenly changed, or if she always knew everything. Murath notices his reaction and asks, "Do you have any connection to the Dark Mage?" He vehemently denies it, explaining he didn't expect to hear that word from her, and Chiron notes that he doesn't doubt the followers' existence. The captain states she has no reason to doubt anything and demands proof that he isn't one of them. Palm admits he has no proof, but says he thought she sought him out because she already knew the answer. Chiron claims she already knows who the followers are and what his relationship with them is, otherwise she would have attacked him without a second thought. Palm asks, "Are you talking about the Cross Hunters?" and says he didn't know she had a connection to them. She then confirms that the followers are the feared Kanya Merchant Union and concludes that he's their enemy. But Chiron makes it clear that doesn't mean he's her ally, not by a long shot. Palm suggests he could be and asks if there's anything she wants from him, figuring that's the real reason for the visit. The captain admits the situation is serious as hell. She reveals she knows the Dark Mage's followers are behind Leah's death, and since they're infiltrated in the Nautilus, she can only trust Mirath and a select few others. He realizes the situation is already way beyond bad, and things are moving faster than he anticipated, much faster. Chiron heard they're going to make a move again and figures they're after Mineru, who's become an icon and a symbol for the ship. If Mineru dies, total chaos will take over the Nautilus, and not even Chiron will be able to contain the situation. It would be the end. Palm instantly gets that this is a major negotiation. Chiron tasks him with protecting Mineru at Eagle's Eye Tomb, offering a rare item from the Nautilus treasures as a reward. Before the portal, Debo grandly announces they'll go in first and invites the others to make themselves comfortable, nice, and relaxed. Mineru watches the group approach the portal. Upon crossing through, Debo is impressed by the location, commenting that everything looks new and unlike any land he's ever seen in his life. Ralph complains about them only selling 10 spots, but Kiri warns him to pay more attention because they're not on a tourist excursion. Facing a small creature, Debo deems it stupid, an easy catch. He offers to take care of it, but something abruptly cuts him off. A much larger creature appears with an intimidating presence right behind the smaller one. Debo, tail between his legs and voice trembling, asks, "Is the little guy with his mom?" Mineru keeps firing and orders, "Eliminate these creatures one by one." Zio immediately gets the picture, so he warns about the noise and comments that the weapons are attracting even more monsters. A pirate tries to calm the guys down, saying, "Don't panic, we only deal with drakes, we've cleared much tougher portals, right?" But he doesn't even finish his sentence because a creature appears out of nowhere and attacks him full on. The monster takes a shot but strikes back hard and knocks 2 pirates to the ground. One of the men tells Zio to get back in formation, so he admits, "You were right." Mineru aims her weapon and declares, "I'll handle this." But another creature appears out of nowhere and attacks the group, who immediately wonders, where are these things coming from? Palm shoves Debo forward and sends him ahead, saying he has things to take care of. Debo gets pissed off immediately and yells, "Where did you go?" Palm turns to the cave wall and curses impatiently, and then another large creature charges with full force in their direction. Debo prepares for combat and declares, "Now the real fight begins." Palm explains to the group that the way they're fighting is a complete mess, and nothing will work if they stay disorganized. He announces a radical change. "From now on, we fight as one team and one family." This catches everyone by surprise, of course. Debo then kicks off the plan, making the first move to charge the front lines, determined to create chaos. He knows he won't land every hit right away, but he needs to focus on hurting what he can. His objective is set, and he just keeps going forward no matter what. Debo ignores attacks coming from behind and keeps pressing forward. Ralph positions himself to protect Debo, stating, "Your old man here is gonna protect you." He calls Debo his cute little boy and orders, "Trust your old man." And Debo naturally yells at him to shut up. Palm had already instructed Ralph, and the order was clear. He would be Debo's shield and forget his selfish techniques. Ralph was destined to fight for Debo, and he had to protect him no matter what, because that was an undeniable order. So, Ralph executes the move, flinging a smaller creature at a larger one. Debo adjusts his stance, ready to test the plan. Ralph yells, "Zone!" and watches the larger creature attack the monster he just threw. The attack lands a direct hit, and it's confirmed. Pumped up by the power of a father's love for his son, Ralph gets hyped, but Debo once again yells at him to shut up. Palm turns to Kiri and says her role will be the most crucial of all. Her ability prevents enemy burns from healing, and that's absolutely vital now. He instructs her, "Use this to take out all the enemies." Kiri directs her attention, focusing on monsters already low on health. Kiri charges forward, slicing through multiple creatures with a single devastating move. Palm states that Kiri has made the most progress in the last month, showing insane evolution. Kiri surveys the battlefield and comments, "This is all easier than I expected." She encourages the group and orders, "Keep pushing against the remaining monsters." Outside the cave, two men stand guard in front of the portal. One of them looks up, noticing someone approaching. A group led by Kadral appears at the entrance, and the guard immediately questions, "What are the invasion members doing here?" Kadral tells the man to get out of the way and says he has urgent business, needing to notify Mineru immediately. Inside the cave, Mineru praises one of the pirates for a job well done and urges them to keep moving. One of the men gets her attention and points to a huge find, an enormous mana stone. A pirate celebrates the discovery and says, "If we sell this, we'll make a killing." But suddenly she gets hit directly and wonders what the hell just happened. The others react to the attack, and one of them yells, "Guys, watch out!" Zio throws himself in front of a comrade, saving him from another projectile, and yells for Mineru. Mineru firmly responds that she already knows, and immediately launches a counterattack. But she turns, noticing a point of light approaching from behind, and senses the imminent danger. She's warned that the attack is coming from her back, and adjusts her stance in an instant. Multiple shots are fired in quick succession, hitting the group of pirates. Mineru turns to the shooter and demands an explanation. Palm replies, stating he's just doing some cleanup. He tells her to stay still and promises it'll be quick, as he surrounds her with his projectiles. Iburu yells indignantly, saying everyone forgot about him. He runs from a creature, but complains that Debo abandoned him after asking him to trust him. Cornered in a crevice, he comments he would have easily died if it weren't for an anthill. What luck! Iburu decides he can't stay hidden forever, then states that if everyone else escapes, he'll be left behind. Standing on a cliff edge, he gets the picture. Iburu is a second circle adventurer after all. He refuses to die here and takes a deep breath. No way. So, facing a second portal, Iburu wonders, what am I supposed to do just hanging out here? Suddenly, he gets a kick from behind and is shoved into the portal. Yikes! Inside, he finds a little critter and instantly gets it. It's Palm's creature. "How long have you been here?" he asks, and adds, "You almost gave me a heart attack, buddy." Iburu hears a familiar sound and freezes up instantly. An intense light shines and he screams in despair. Wild. The little critter makes a short sound and simply dissolves into particles of light. That's weird. Back in the cave, Palm lays it out. "Nobody move." He states he'll finish this up quickly and keeps the blades surrounding the pirates. Things are tense. "Shut up, Palm!" Mineru snaps. She demands he explain himself right now. Zio holds her back, preventing Mineru from shooting, and one of the pirates looks stunned. Kadral and his group arrive, lamenting they arrived too late, and Mineru immediately wonders, how the hell did he find us? Mineru points out that Palm is still alive and tells them to go after him, but Kadral comments, he did something similar at the 100-person portal. Kadral explains the situation, stating that Chiron figured out the play and sent them there. Mineru is super surprised by the info and reacts instantly. It was Chiron's request. What a twist. Palm quickly advances on the pirates and unleashes an attack with his staff. His attack hits several pirates and throws them to the ground. Bam! Pissed off by the sight, Kadral's companion questions, "What are you guys even doing?" "It's just one person," he yells, and starts an insane barrage of shots. Aiming with precision, the man states, "Got him!" A huge detonation explodes with incredible force, hitting the area and surprising all the pirates. What a blow! Observing from afar, Palm confirms the attack hit dead on, but wonders if they caught on to his plan, since they're not the only ones there. He notices a small projectile coming his way and reacts instantly. Firing with both weapons, Mineru states, "I don't miss." Palm quickens his pace, approaching a newly materialized small portal. Kadral throws a bomb at the pirates and yells, "Get down!" The bomb activates in the air and explodes before even reaching its target. Bang! The explosion hits Zio, who screams Mineru's name. The impact causes a collapse and he calls the others closer, while the pirates take off. Mineru gets up amidst the dust and rubble, breathing with difficulty. What a struggle. Palm appears out of nowhere and blocks her weapon with his staff. Mineru questions him without hesitation. "What's your problem? What are you trying to do here, huh?" Palm keeps his tone firm and asks, "Are you ready to handle the truth?" Zio grabs Kadral and scolds him for hitting Mineru, while the poor guy tries to explain himself. Another detonation explodes near them and shakes the entire area. Another one. Looking into the dust, Zio screams, "Mineru, are you alive?" Suddenly he gets hit. A blade lands a direct hit. Mineru's weapon is torn from her hand. She loses control, and Kadral just watches the scene, shocked. Immediately after, Kadral is hit and knocked down by multiple shots. Fallen on the ground, he can barely ask why. Mineru attacks one of the fallen pirates and delivers a blow. She doesn't stop. Reacting to the scene, Zio screams her name and questions, "What's going on, Mineru?" Palm approaches her and says he spent mana because of her stubbornness, but the result was exactly as expected. Then, he addresses a large group of people who just arrived and adjusts his tone. Mineru turns to Zio and orders, "Grab everyone and get out of here now." She states that these are Chiron's direct orders and reinforces the decision. No arguing. Near the second portal, Iburu complains he doesn't want to go in there and comments he should have just waited. He looks inside and wonders, is that another cave? Are the other guys in there? He sees a person in the distance and wonders, who could that be? The figure slowly moves away, getting further, and Iburu calls out, "Wait!" He tries to approach, explains he was separated from the group, and suggests, "How about we walk together?" Suddenly he gets knocked to the ground and reacts instantly to the attack. Iburu quickly gets up, scolds the little critter and lays it out. "You're gonna be dinner if you keep acting like this." Iburu realizes it's not a monster, but freezes instantly as an enormous foot steps right in front of him. From the dust, a tall, slender creature emerges, terrifying. Looking at the creature in front of him, Iburu holds his breath. Things just got tense. The henchman warns Cheryl that something is wrong, commenting that they know too much about the group's items, which makes them completely untrustworthy. He mentions the monocle of penetration and explains that the artifact reveals mana flow, allowing them to differentiate followers of the dark mage, but consumes an absurd amount of energy. Cheryl then states that no one else has been able to use the item since Chorus's death, and questions if the guy doesn't know that it only works when combined with the user's element. She wonders, how did some kid who dresses like a mage manage to use something like that? Cheryl admits she doesn't trust him either, but believes that for now, their objective is the same, even if it might all be a massive trap. The henchman asks what they can do and reminds her that he lent the item, then asks her to trust him. She concludes that if his mana isn't enough, he'll end up dead before even being able to use the monocle, so they decide they should just wait and observe. From a distance, the duo watches and wonders how Palm will respond to the crowd below. Palm turns to Chiron, monocle in hand, and reveals, "Everyone here except for the three in front are followers." "Nonsense!" one of the pirates yells, demanding proof and doubting Mineru would believe the kid. Palm just taunts the group. What if a certain kind of proof is more than enough? He explains that the followers' tattoos only appear if the user infuses mana into them, and they can be anywhere on the body. He adds that it's impossible to see the tattoo with the naked eye, further emphasizing the point. But that doesn't mean it doesn't exist, he insists. Palm tries to be respectful, and as he cautiously touches one of the men, "Aren't you being a bit too audacious with that attitude?" he presses the guy. The other pirates recognize the black mage's symbol and immediately exclaim, "No, no way!" In complete despair, the pirate who demanded proof totally panics. The followers draw their firearms and start the confrontation. "Kill them all!" one of them yells, igniting chaos. "What the hell is going on?" asks the pirate with the biggest gun, completely losing control. He fires his scatter cannon and initiates the attack. Mineru points her weapon forward with determination and prepares herself. One of the followers is hit head-on and falls lifeless. Palm warns his allies that he used too much mana to track them, so they'll be at a disadvantage. One of the enemies spots a second portal nearby and suggests, "Let's cross through it to hide." "Shut up!" Mineru cuts him off instantly. She declares, "I'll kill all of them myself," and charges forward. "Get back if you don't want to get hurt," someone warns, trying to stop her. Suddenly the bandit appears and announces, "It's time for the hunt!" He attacks one of the pirates amid the chaos and hits his target. "What's happening?" Mineru questions, trying to understand the scene. She realizes she's trapped in an illusion and can't see anything, so she despairs. The pirate struggles in the surrounding darkness, trying to escape at all costs. "I wouldn't expect anything less from you," says the man who trapped her, and immediately warns that she better be prepared. "Mineru!" one of her companions shouts, stating that he also can't see absolutely anything. The follower points his gun at the girl and says, "I'll send you where Eagle Eye is since you miss her so much." He fires the weapon, trying to hit her squarely. Palm appears in front of the projectile and tells the shooter, "Send her my regards." He deflects the shot and pulls Mineru away from imminent danger. How is that even possible? The follower questions, instantly losing his cool. Palm holds the pirate steady, while the man yells, he should be completely blind. The follower orders, shoot Palm, and claims he's too unpredictable. All the followers open fire on the young man, attacking simultaneously. Palm raises his hand and creates a powerful barrier that blocks all the shots. He uses his wizard staff and takes down several thugs in an instant. Will this work? One of the pirates asks, then fires a cannon shot. The man gets hit squarely and wonders, how is this even possible? What kind of power is that? The enemy asks, commenting that they are just fire arrows. Everyone back off, he shouts and launches multiple projectiles. His attack clashes against the enemy shots, causing a gigantic impact. The pirate realizes he changed the fire arrow's direction with the explosion and gets the full picture. Palm takes advantage of the distraction, charges forward and slashes one of the followers. The man is fatally struck and falls without any resistance. He advances against the remaining enemies, and the attack continues non-stop. The illusion breaks, and Mineru announces, I can see again. She comes face to face with one of the enemies amidst the chaos and confronts the threat head-on. The follower reveals an orb and says, this is all for the dark mage. Several followers activate similar orbs and hurl them at the group. The spheres explode simultaneously, creating a chain reaction of destruction. Mineru is thrown far back by the impact and completely loses her balance. Protected by a shockwave barrier, someone shouts, El Pam! Palm approaches the portal and states he's at his limit, needing to cross before his mana completely runs out. He runs toward the exit with Mineru, pushing forward as one of the enemies also charges at them. The girl is hit by an attack and thrown far back, making her friend scream her name in desperation. Palm turns and extends a hand toward her. The minion charges and intercepts one of the orbs flying straight toward them. He hurls it against the portal, which triggers a massive explosion as it closes. Mineru props herself up on the ground amidst the rubble and desperately tries to catch her breath. The portal completely vanishes, leaving behind only a trail of pure destruction in its wake. A pirate laments the portal's loss and looks dejected, but then another questions if Palm was defeated by the followers. Cheryl asserts that everything is fine and explains the portal will regenerate nearby. He reveals their true objective, saying they need to kill Mineru, then charges straight at her. He attacks with a punch, forcing the pirate to block the blow with her weapon. His comrade declares that won't work and activates his own ability. Mineru realizes the attack had no effect and wonders if he was hiding that technique. Calling her weak, the man strikes directly with a punch. Mineru is thrown backward by the force of the impact and loses her balance. She uses the momentum to leap over his shoulders and aims her weapons downward. Mineru fires repeatedly at the opponent's back and legs, trying to stop him. The man reacts to the bullet wounds and tries to stay on his feet. Mineru continues the attack without hesitation and presses on, but she's hit by a shot from afar and is forced to retreat. Even wounded, the pirate turns and fires back at the shooter. His comrade taunts her, calling them little rats. Mineru attacks from behind and plunges her weapon into his ribs. Then she fires point blank at the man's head, finishing the blow instantly. The other pirates watch from a distance and shout Pedro's name. Mineru states they have no time and challenges. Come at me, all of you. Elsewhere, Debo wonders what the portal is, and Kiri notices there are several other secondary portals. Ralph explains they must be special portals, connected to different locations in the second region, and comments that he's heard of this before. He describes that as soon as a certain number of people pass through one of them, the portal closes, forcing the others to use the remaining ones. The group decides it's best to look around and plans to reunite with Palm as soon as possible. One of the pirates notices something rapidly approaching and wonders, what the hell is that? Iburu appears running and shouts that the crew came to save him. The group tries to stop him, desperately yelling for him not to go in that direction. Palm observes everything with his monocle and realizes there's no chance. The creature advances without hesitation and attacks Iburu. Ralph notices the monsters are wearing clothes and wonders if they're human. He realizes it's not the time to think, notes that the creatures won't die, and he's almost out of ammo. Palm admits he's never heard of monsters like those and shows concern. Through his vision, he discovers they are zombified bodies, without a vital point, something different from anything he's ever seen, so he tries to understand the scene. Needing to find a way out of the situation, Palm notices some connected mana lines. He wonders how far those energy lines can go and tries to calculate their reach. Palm deduces there must be something behind the wall where the lines concentrate and focuses on that spot. He allows his ability to reveal Debo fighting and wonders if they're at the second portal, but he doesn't have enough mana to keep the ability active for long and feels the pressure mounting. One of the pirates tries to snap him out of it, yelling for Palm to wake up as the giant creature charges forward. The monster swings its arm, forcing Ralph to barely dodge. He desperately screams Mineru's name, trying to call for help. The pirate fires multiple shots at the creature's arm, trying to hold it back. Suddenly, a man named Kevin appears, says he's relieved and asks, "Did you get hurt?" Mineru tells him to get out of there, unless he wants to die, and prepares an attack. Kevin turns to her and simply asks, "What did you say?" Mineru unleashes a massive explosion with her skill, blasting a hole in the rock wall. She eyes the newly created tunnel and takes a deep breath, while Kevin recovers on the ground. Kevin gets up, says she almost killed him, but notices even more enemies approaching. Mineru asks what they'll do now, since she's low on ammo. Then Kevin replies, he can use his skill one more time if he imbues his mana. Palm shows up right after, asking her to hold on, because they need that skill. But Mineru challenges him, pointing out they don't have time to waste. He states he doesn't need 5 minutes, just 3, leaving the pirate curious about what he can do in that time. Palm declares he's going to clear the portal and shoves several orbs into his mouth. Meanwhile, at the other portal, zombies furiously advance on Debo's group. One of the knights struggles to push them back, asking, what the hell is going on? He realizes even after being cut, they keep moving and he's losing his breath. The creature violently attacks and sends him flying. Ralph charges without hesitation and attacks one of the monsters with his fists. He tells his comrade to stop complaining, stating if there's time for that, there's time to kill more of them. Kiri and Ibaru fight side by side, facing the horde, as Ibaru screams, "Die, you monsters!" One of the zombies grabs Ibaru's arm and tries to bring him down, but the creature is slammed to the ground with a devastating impact, dissolving on the spot. Kiri congratulates Ibaru and watches him brag, saying, "That was easy." Suddenly, the enormous stone wall in front of them crumbles and starts to collapse. The knight watches the scene unfold and exclaims, "That was incredible." A colossal creature emerges from the opening and reveals itself. Debo asks, "What do we do now that this little creature has awakened?" Iburu answers without thinking and declares, "It just complimented me." The creature attacks one of the zombies and launches itself into the chaos of battle. Mineru and the pirate fire at the monsters, then see an energy barrier forming. Palm feels his heart about to burst and realizes he has no other choice. He has to push himself again. He knows it's too early to advance to the next circle and understands it would hinder his growth, so only one option remains. Palm recalls that before his regression, he always faced monsters that grew stronger, but his power couldn't keep up. He risks everything and uses mana stones, the concentrated essence of monsters' lives. The idea is to consume the stone's core to directly convert it into mana. He believes this would recover all consumed energy, leaving only explosions of mana waves. Palm creates a flow that travels with his blood in his veins to his heart, hoping his body can handle the shock. Mineru keeps shooting at the giant creature's legs to buy time. A voice praises the pirate's good work and emerges amidst the battle's din. She turns to him and asks, what happened to Palm's hand? He tells Mineru to prepare her previous skill, which leaves her confused by the request. Frightened by Palm's transformation, she asks, "What the hell is that?" Kiri takes advantage of the distraction and charges to attack one of the monsters. The creature strikes down one of the knights and whips its tentacle with force. Debo is shocked to see mushrooms growing on his own arm, and he instantly pales. He then realizes that's the zombie mushroom's secret, finally understanding the imminent danger. Someone screams for everyone to watch out for the tentacles, trying to warn the group. The giant creature attacks brutally, advancing as the knight warns, "That's gonna turn you guys into zombie mushrooms." Debo concludes this monster is behind everything, and his despair grows. Kiri notices everyone's movements are getting slower and stiffer, eyes widening in alarm. Ibaru realizes that at this rate, everyone will die, so he clenches his fists. The knight tells them to leave it to him and orders everyone to fall back, trying to take the risk. But Kiri shouts, "Wait!" He tells himself he has to do this and takes a deep breath. The knight rushes toward the creature's tentacles and raises his blade. He spins non-stop, parrying the incoming attacks. Kiri seizes the opening and leaps over him to continue the assault. Palm asks Kiri to focus on keeping the skill active, assuring him he'll handle the aiming. He reveals they need to destroy that wall and points to the target. The pirate states they only have one shot, then adjusts the cannon's aim amidst the monsters. Palm orders her to begin and watches Mineru ready the cannon. The crushing bullet's projectile rockets toward the wall, guided by his energy. It travels, spinning at high velocity, and the shot slices through the air with everything it's got. Palm pushes to accelerate the projectile even further, intensifying his skill. Palm's energy engulfs the shot, brutally amplifying its power. Palm screams, it's still not enough. They need more momentum, and tells Mineru to keep going. Adding a fire arrow attack, the combined projectile gains even more power. The pirate realizes he's out of ammo as one of the creatures lunges at him, so he urgently retreats. Cross yells at Mineru to get out of the way and charges into the monsters. Cross calls out for the boy just as the giant creature attacks him, and he loses his breath. Palm realizes through his vision that the ability to take rational actions was hindered by the puppets of a coreless monster, and he puts the pieces together. He notices the mana line is going elsewhere, and understands the true identity of the immortals is different. Palm gets it. The core's owner is somewhere else, and that's who they need to fight, so he makes his decision. The combined shot hits the giant creature head-on, exploding its impact with full force. Palm points to the real enemy and declares, "That's him!" The combined projectile zooms forward like a crushing rocket, streaking through the air. The knight looks up in shock, trying to grasp the power of that attack, while Debo finds himself surrounded by the remaining monsters. Mineru and Palm face the horde of creatures surrounding them from all sides, fighting side by side. One of the knights is subdued and torn apart by the creatures. What a tragic end. Iburu celebrates amidst the chaos and yells, "I finally did it!" Mineru looks at the portal and takes a deep breath, and Palm confirms the path is clear. Mineru then remembers her parents' abandonment, terrible people, and feels the weight of that memory. She knows Leah was the only one to protect her, recalling the safety she found in her sister. Leah always stepped in, and her sister became her hero. 10 years have passed since their master took them in, and time has flown by. Leah, a genius recognized by Chiron, speaks with firmness, but Mineru feels it like just another lecture. She feels pressured, noticing the distance between them growing by the minute. Leah then pulls her cheek hard, trying to break the tension. She tells Mineru not to be like that, emphasizing that consistency is her strong suit. But the girl complains, "Don't hit me like that." Leah smiles and states she'll always be by her side so Mineru doesn't feel pressured. Back to the present, one of the knights asks if Kiri is okay, and Debo then brags it was thanks to his healing that she survived. The guy sarcastically agrees, "Yeah, sure, it was because of you." A pirate spots something in the distance and calls the group's attention. They observe a figure tied to a large rock in the darkness and approach with caution. Mineru recognizes the tied-up person. It's Leah. Kiri questions the use of the ropes, trying to understand the scene, and Debo supposes she tied herself up before turning into a zombie mushroom. Mineru then recalls her master's words, reliving the warning about the return of the Dark Mage's followers. Leah had warned that they infiltrated the Nautilus and couldn't help her, so she told Mineru to watch out. She left one last message, concluding her sorrowful goodbye. Leah revealed the traitors had meticulously prepared everything, and that half the crew were followers. She figured no one could be trusted and this was probably her end, speaking with bitterness. Mineru cries for not being able to keep her promise to her sister, letting the pain pour out. A portal rips open on a beach, appearing amidst several fallen bodies. The Dark Mage's followers ask why the others are late, and the silence is weird. One of them informs that Kadral took the night fragment, and Mineru's group will be under the item's magic, trying to keep his cool. But he watches one of his comrades get hit by a sudden attack and goes into shock. They are hit by multiple shots and the group members scream, "It's an ambush!" The leader recognizes the attacker and is surprised as he believed she was at the conference. Karen points her weapon at them and asks, "How does it feel to be ambushed for the first time?" One of her men reports they eliminated 46 enemies, and everyone should hold their positions, driving the point home. Abbas tells the captain not to worry, revealing they sent a certain man with the group for a reason. Chiron, gaze fixed on the horizon, says if Mineru doesn't return, she won't be able to forgive herself. She walks along the beach and approaches her crew. Mineru is brought in wounded by one of the pirates, calling out her captain's name. Chiron watches her with relief and sadness, taking a deep breath. The young woman says she managed to bring her sister back and nearly collapses. The captain gets the picture, replies that she understands, and keeps her voice steady. Chiron welcomes the young pirate, taking her in. Then dusk falls, and several boats gather around the Nautilus. The knight is surprised by the number of people, hearing Kiri comment that it's basically the entire crew. They gather there and everyone attends Eagle Eye's funeral. Mineru watches her sister's farewell ceremony, trying to hold back her emotions. The knight asks Kiri where the boss is, looking for him. Several lanterns float over the waters, illuminating the tribute to the deceased. Palm drops a bottle next to a wooden box, feeling the room sway. He drinks a liquid from another bottle, questioning if that's an offer. Palm considers the proposal a big ask, but hears Chiron insist it's necessary. The captain questions the mana potions, reminding him how precious they are after the recipe was lost, then crosses her arms. He replies he knows, and that's why he's asking, justifying it would be easy for her considering the Nautilus's financial power. Karin reminds him their deal is done, but watches Palm extend his hand and say they still have things to work on together. He proposes a new deal, demanding 2 items from her stock instead of 1 in exchange for his help. Palm fixes his gaze and promises that, in return, he'll find all the Dark Mage's followers on the Nautilus. He sighs, lamenting that his second life isn't being easy at all either. The pirate approaches Mineru and asks why she's so deep in thought. She replies it's nothing, asking him to leave her alone. Her ally, Zio, suggests she should go with Palm, and this surprises her. He says he didn't mean to snoop, trying to smooth things over. Zio continues, saying he knows Palm tried to recruit her, but she denies it. He reminds her things worked out thanks to Palm, stressing that the followers who killed Leah are still out there. He clenches his fist and says he's sure she wants revenge, just like he does too. And if Mineru goes with Palm, they'll fight the followers on the front lines, as Zio considers him a reliable guy. He says he'll protect the place, reminding Mineru that she knows him. She merely pronounces his name, Zio, and lowers her gaze. The young woman smiles, teasing him about his strength while he complains about the ruined moment. Chiron's presence on the Nautilus ensures everything will be fine. The duo travels along a river cutting through the dense forest, following the current in silence. They sail in the small boat, advancing toward their destination. They approach a giant golden gate, and the hull glides without slowing. From atop the structure, several people watch everything, holding their weapons. Then Chiron raises her staff toward the entrance and activates the hidden mechanism. The massive gates then open with monstrous grandeur, allowing the boat to pass through. Palm is surprised to recognize the place, his eyes widening. He instantly gets it. This is Chiron's treasure, and then he connects the dots. He asks Chiron to explain the item's value, questioning expectantly, but the captain lays it bare. He needs to decide for himself. She reminds him she only promised 2 items, and this leaves him thoughtful. Palm observes the treasures and quickly identifies the onyx dragon wand and the Dominator's pendant. He spots the angelic guardian ring of dawn and reflects on the choice. Then he turns with a decided expression and sets his course. Chiron watches the young man move away toward another part of the treasure, following him curiously. He extends his hand and states with certainty that's what he's looking for. Palm recalls that, on the last day, a follower was massacring association members on the front lines, and he relives the scene. His name is Reek, a traitor to humanity who had left his mark on everyone. He infiltrated the association's higher-ups and betrayed them at the crucial moment, causing fatal damage. Palm recalls how many people he lost to that scumbag and wonders, is that where he got the item? He decides he'll take that item as his first choice, making it his top priority. Chiron notes he has a good eye, but questions the choice, because the item doesn't match his elemental type. Palm turns his attention back to the other treasures and continues evaluating. Then he spots a ring he'd never seen before among the coins and wonders. Is this just a common ring? He finds it strange that something common would be there, so he reaches out to grab it. But something very unexpected happens the instant he touches it. Chiron asks what happened, trying to understand, and Palm questions, what is that thing stuck on my hand? He explains he tried to grab it, and out of nowhere, the ring got stuck on his finger, and then he stares at his own hand, confused. The captain stares at him completely surprised and speechless. Chiron apologizes and states that ring isn't hers, so she can't offer it. She asks him to choose something else. Smiling slightly, the captain just says, got it, it's okay. Chiron stares at him in confusion, waiting for an explanation, but Palm continues. He explains he simply can't take the ring off his finger and shows total frustration. Meanwhile, Beiju reports that the Goldrush situation has been handled and gets praised for a job well done. Then Aaron asks about Palm, stating, it must be time. Beiju kneels and apologizes. He admits they failed but gets cut off before he can finish. Aaron furiously demands to know how they could have failed even using the night fragment, and then he just loses it. A dark voice echoes through the air, warning that this was their last chance, and if he fails again, Beiju will pay with his life. Back on the ship, Mineru grabs her backpack and gets ready to leave. She dashes out of the room, pushing forward with determination. The group follows her down the hall, and Palm urges them on. Get moving. Ralph watches everyone leave on the boat and wishes they'd improve their skills before coming back. He remembers when Debo won a bet and curses the damn gambler. Already on the boat, the knight asks Palm, are we really going? And he confirms it. Mineru rushes to the ship's edge and yells, hold on! The knight questions the newcomer's presence, finding the situation strange. He tells her to wait, tries to stop her, but Palm just watches with a smile. Mineru jumps onto the boat and asks, Where's my spot? Elsewhere, a man runs desperately down a corridor. A companion tells him to run, and another on the ground shouts, "Run! Don't look back!" The group continues their escape, but realizes at this pace they won't make it out. They spot a lever on the wall ahead, and one of them sees an opportunity. He sprints toward the mechanism and yells to the others, "I'll hit it!" Gutrin pulls the lever with all his might, refusing to die there. But a blade runs him through from behind before he can even complete the motion. His companion screams his name as the sword hits the ground, losing his breath. A wall slams shut in front of them, leaving them with no exit. Fallen, Gutrin orders, "Get out of there!" A mounted knight appears and Gutrin says he needs to survive. Palm breaks the room's silence and announces he's back. Abbas slams the table and questions his confidence. After all, he came back empty-handed but still seemed happy with the mission. Palm tosses papers onto the table, commenting that this wasn't enough, but it would broaden their stage a bit. He reveals that Minoru, the followers' target, has joined the group, so now they were going to lure the enemies into a trap. Abbas asks how long he'd have to participate in these games, but Palm decides he can't reveal everything to him yet. Palm knew that if they fell into war, divided by Kania's objective, they would never reach the roots of the followers. So he stands by his decision. He concludes that he needs to hurry up and states it wouldn't take long. Ralph fumes furiously. Palm added more people to the team without telling anyone, and now he'd have to spend more money on everyone. In a meeting, Kiri and Mineru watch Ralph argue about Palm's temporary leadership. Palm places a glass on the table and declares that if there were complaints, they could be settled with skill. He looks at Ralph and states he's always open to duels. Ralph reacts with hesitation and backs down from the proposal. He storms out, slamming the door and complaining it was his money, and Palm didn't discuss anything with him. Ralph asks where he's going, and Palm replies he has somewhere to go, and training is cancelled. From the terrace, his guards observe the group members heading to different locations. Followers complain that the group acts like they have multiple lives and question why they always go out alone. Ralph walks down the street and continues on. The men decide to split up to follow him. Chiron questions if the item chose Palm as its owner. After all, the ring wouldn't come off his finger. He realizes that wasn't good and recalls who the ring's true owner was. Palm accepts the situation, showing no surprise. Chiron advises him, saying he'd have to ask the item's owner for permission. As they step into a room, Cheryl greets them, confirming he's alive and well. Palm then asks if she's the ring's owner. He shows her the ring, stating he can't take it off, and asks if she minds. The woman stares at the item, surprised, immediately recognizing what she sees on his finger. She turns to her companion, a worried expression on her face, showing her unease. She states she can't give him the ring because the true owner isn't here. Then Cheryl hears Palm ask her to bring the owner for an explanation. He says the situation is great, leaving her even more confused. Cheryl then makes a request to Palm regarding the ring's owner, trying to make clear what she needs. She asks him to save Fur, the hero tracker, and with that, Cheryl reveals her worry. Humanity was pushed against the wall on its last day, facing terrible monsters. 6 heroes emerged to fight, returning to the battlefield. Among them was Evan, Fried's successor, and Luminous, the adversary of fate. Joining the fray, the Thief Phantom and the Elf Queen, Mercedes, take their positions. Rounding out the group, Aaron, the halberd heroine, and Shade, the mystic hero, solidify their presence. That was the return of the 6 heroes. One of them unleashes a powerful attack, charging with explosive force. It hits the creature head-on, and energy tears through the field. The people witness their power, rendered speechless. Seeing the overwhelming power the heroes possessed, they grasp its magnitude, and realizing the miracles they were capable of creating, they rekindle the flame of faith. They hope they'll save the world again, nurturing that hope, but no one knows their power is incomplete. 800 years ago, the heroes lost their items in temporal rifts, and somehow they were discovered in the current portals. Without time for them to recover their power, the Alliance's attempt failed, but things had to change this time. The heroes needed to be equipped with a formidable shield, and they depended on it to prevent the followers from reaching them. Meanwhile, Palm's group served as bait to draw in the followers. The plan needed to unite every faction of the Maple World, and this called for a powerful alliance. And so finally they could change history. The knight admires the landscape and comments on the incredible view. Before a vast canyon, the group surveys the scenery. Palm states the location must be around here and points out the spot. He hands some papers to the group and asks them to place them on their bodies, leaving the knight confused. Obeying, the knight positions the paper on his chest. The paper emits an energy that expands, making him question, "What the hell is that?" The energy spreads across the ground, forming a large circle. Out of nowhere, a portal emerges, taking shape in the circle's center. Mineru is surprised, saying they'd never find the portal without this. Palm remembers Fur, the hero tracker, who discovered how to track the items and connects all the dots. He gets the picture. Palm wonders if the ring on his hand is a hero item and reflects in silence. The group prepares and watches as Palm steps forward, declaring, "We're going to save him." Hovering in the void, an immense structure dominates the space. Debo shows off, proud, announcing they cleared the first portal in a record 5 hours. He brags about how the firebores were super easy, then Kiri tells him to wipe his ash-covered face. Mineru is surprised and questions Debo's strength, who promptly declares himself a genius and says he'll reach the 4th circle. Ralph observes his enthusiasm and comments, then the young man asks if he's scared. Palm advises him not to rush, reminding him that leveling up too fast isn't always a good idea. He explains that rapid growth can overload the body and halt evolution, trying to make him get the picture. Debo snaps back, asking why Palm leveled up 2 circles at once, but Palm claims he had no choice at the time. Mineru notices how casually Palm talks about advancing circles and watches him, intrigued. Palm recalls that before his regression, dangerous situations prevented him from truly evolving, and then he reflects. Now, aware of the future, he's determined to grow only at the right times to reach the 8th circle. Kiri worries they've advanced too quickly and fears they've lost who they were looking for. Palm reassures her, guaranteeing they haven't lost them, and says he already checked. The device in his eye activates, detecting thousands of presences, alerting them that they've got company. No time to process, Debo barely reacts. His eyes widen in pure shock as he sees what's coming. A horde of skeletons with a sinister aura surges forward like a tide, taking the lead, and he screams, having no idea what those things are. He warns that there are too many and orders everyone to get out of there. Mineru dashes forward, realizing bullets are useless against the skeletons. Kiri despairs, questioning if this is the only kind of monster they'll face from now on. Ralph decides there's no other choice and prepares to fight, but an unknown voice yells, "Everyone hit the deck!" Debo is surrounded by the advancing monsters and loses ground. The skeletons attack relentlessly with swords and shields, pressing on without mercy. Suddenly, an unknown force hurls these creatures away. A crosshunter emerges before them, identified by her monocle of penetration, revealing herself. Debo expresses relief that she's there and reacts, but suddenly, Fur, the newcomer, urgently asks for something. He desperately begs for food, revealing his state, and then he simply collapses to the ground, leaving Palm and Debo bewildered. Fur explains that, trapped there, he learned the patterns of the skeletons and local devices, and thus recounts his experience. He boasts about his excellent infiltration skills and tries to regain his composure. While Mineru creates a barrier, Fur reveals the big problem was being 5 days without food. He continues, claiming he nearly starved to death, but Palm interrupts him to ask for a favor. Palm sees him eating with his mouth full, gives up, and just tells him to finish his meal. Mineru smiles slightly and comments that, either way, it brings a certain relief. She speaks casually, mentioning that after finding the exit portal, they no longer need to defeat the boss. But Fur cuts her off, saying he still has a favor to ask. He bows deeply and pleads, "Please, become my bodyguards for 3 days." He explains why. He claims there's an item he's looking for, and he can't leave, otherwise his friends would have died in vain. He admits his limitations, confessing he's not good at fighting, so exploring the place alone is difficult. So he asks for their help, guaranteeing he'll track down the item in 3 days and will reward them. Palm questions the proposal, asking how he can find something in 3 days if he couldn't in a month, stating he has no time to lose. But the hunter replies he hasn't searched the dangerous regions and has a hunch about where the item is. Elsewhere, a white-haired man observes from a distance, wondering if it's all starting. Curiously, he questions if the great hero wouldn't escape this time. But no sooner does he finish than a cold voice answers his question, asking, "Are you so sure about that?" Seeking to know who it is, he turns back, looking for an answer. A multi-eyed creature is disappointed with Evoke, as he isn't capable of finishing off a small insect. He kneels and hears a small spider ask, "How much more do you plan to embarrass yourself?" He knows he has no excuses, so he just accepts any punishment and states his plans are already in motion. His only option is to beg the spider lady for another chance. The spider lady accepts his proposal and orders him to take full responsibility for his plan. Meanwhile, back to the battle against the skeletons. Debo finishes off a good number of skeletons and believes this is awesome. As everyone walks, he comments that, now that the path is blocked, everything will be smoother. Think again. Just ahead, they find a device. If one opens, the other closes. Palm agrees with the search and says they need to find the item before they're located, so he observes an imposing statue of a knight, and he reveals that the statue itself is the great hero's item Fur was searching for. Debo looks around, asking if they're in the right spot since he doesn't see many items here. Palm steps forward, commenting that the place looks different, so they need to search harder. While Mineru tries to figure out who the heck built this, Debo wonders if the statue is just gonna start walking around out of nowhere. Then Kiri calls out to everyone, asking them to come closer. She shows them a stone slab with an inscription she can't read, but warns that it feels super important. Fur comes closer and identifies an enigma in an ancient language, suggesting it's the clue to the item's location. The translation mentions musicians, an actor behind a curtain, and the clear instruction to follow the light. Mineru finds a large door with strange drawings and asks if that's important too. Debo points out that there are more of those drawings scattered across the walls. Fur believes the symbols are the key to the enigma, and that each one represents something. He remembers the part about following the light, connects the dots, and realizes what they need to do. Following the instruction, Debo places his hand on the symbol that looks like a sun on the door. The door opens, and he comments on how it was way too easy, but a brutal blast of fire erupts from within. Kiri screams Debo's name as the flames hit him square on. Frozen, he stands completely charred by the attack. A total fiasco. Ralph laughs at the situation, while Fur regrets thinking the answer was the sun, but he has a sudden revelation, and then regains his focus. Remembering the phrase behind the dark and deep curtain, Fur concludes the answer is the moon. He points with conviction and states, "Now it makes sense." Ralph agrees it sounds right, but a trap is triggered, and a rock hits Ralph square on. With both of them injured, Fur apologizes and promises to get it right on the next try. The group stands in tense silence in the center of the room. Kiri comments that they seem to trigger a trap linked to the symbol every time they get the answer wrong. Debo says he gets it, but the problem is they just don't know how to solve the enigma. They stare at the other doors, wondering what the heck the lightning bolt and X symbols mean. Debo suggests Fur press one of them, but the hunter hesitates, fearing he'll get it wrong again and suffer another hit. Palm suggests they might be interpreting the symbols incorrectly and that they should solve the enigma first. He states that Fur's interpretation wasn't wrong, but that behind the dark curtain was the night sky, and the musicians could be crickets. Palm continues explaining that the part about despising us could refer to the moon and stars, since they were supposed to follow the light. Fur finally cracks the riddle, then exclaims, "The answer is the stars." He explains that unlike the moon, stars are always there, even if they move, and so he reaches his conclusion. Realizing what the correct symbol is, he decides to act. Fur approaches the door and touches the symbol that looks like an X. Mineru finally gets it. The drawing wasn't an X, but actually a star. With his hand on the panel, he prepares to push, hoping they're right. The heavy stone door slowly begins to open. Relieved, Fur stares into the dark passage and confirms they were right. He smiles and invites the group. "This way, let's go." But a voice questions, "Are you sure?" Then a figure attacks. A man named Shade appears and announces, "We'll handle the rest." Shade charges straight at Palm, who's surprised by the sudden attack. He manages to block the blow with his staff at the last second and holds his ground. Then he counterattacks with his staff, calling the invaders rats. He lunges with the attack and yells, "Gotcha!" The opponent teleports away, leaving Palm stunned by the skill. He identifies the new adversary appearing before them as Beiju and tries to figure out the play. Debo and Kiri watch the new enemies approaching. He wonders who the hell those hooded figures advancing are and tries to stay focused. The group now finds itself completely surrounded by opponents. One of the newcomers hesitates and asks, "What should we do?" A woman states they shouldn't have waited to attack and that they need the hero's item to make up for their past mistakes. She smiles and guarantees everything will work out one way or another. Fur wonders how they were found, and Palm admits he doesn't know either, as he believed no one could track them. A voice behind them comments, "You all seem very curious." The same voice suggests, "Ask someone else." Then something drops from above toward Palm. He's violently slammed to the ground by the impact. Debo turns around, shocked, and asks Ralph, "What the hell are you doing?" Ralph just smiles, displays the bloody object in his hand and replies, "I'm making money." Lights from a house stand out on the dark street. Then the scene takes us to a flashback. There, Ralph smiles and calls for his beauties. Then he opens a chest full of gold and declares that's what he lives for. It's all that matters. Suddenly, loud banging on the door shatters the calm, and Ralph turns around, wondering who could be visiting him so late. Opening it, he finds two figures and immediately asks why they aren't on guard, but one of them tells Ralph to watch his mouth, saying someone wants to speak with him. Ralph stares at them with a tense look, realizing the seriousness of the situation. He dismisses them, asking who she thinks she is to be controlling him. A voice from outside announces she came personally, and Ralph's eyes widen in shock at the revelation. It's Beiju, from the Kanya Merchant Union, who appears and invites him for a decisive conversation. Back in the present, Kiri glares at the traitor and, without mincing words, calls him a piece of trash. Ralph, in turn, tells her not to look at him like that because it scares him. Debo then questions, getting straight to the point if he betrayed them for a few coins. But Ralph scoffs at the accusation, revealing that even the guards received an offer of 3 times their own salary. The guy is a full-blown traitor. Then, Ralph turns to Palm, who struggles to stand, and asks how much money he thinks his head is worth. Bleeding, Palm reveals the truth. The bounty is 100 million misos. Ralph laughs hysterically. I mean, how could he refuse an offer like that? It's way too much money. But suddenly Mineru attacks him with a shot from behind without warning. The masked figures announce that the time for goodbyes is over, and one of them immediately gives the order to get everyone. The battle begins instantly. Kiri crosses her sword with one of her opponents who, cynically, asks her to step aside. The knight then asks, "Do you really think things will go according to plan?" Her adversary confirms they will, and parries the blow with absurd ease. Kiri's opponent comments that even though she learned dual wielding, she still uses her right arm for stronger attacks. And she continues, explaining that by reading their enemies' patterns, dodging attacks becomes way too easy. Meanwhile, Debo is at a disadvantage because his openings become all too clear when he faces more than one enemy. Kiri's adversary claims to know their every move and tells them to accept it. "You will die here." Mineru shoots at the followers, but Beiju deflects the shot with ease and praises her, saying it was exactly what he expected from Chiron's disciple. Mineru shoots again, but the shot is blocked mid-air. Then Beiju captures her by the neck with a chain and warns her that she's facing the wrong opponent, she better get the picture. But suddenly, a man named Phantom appears and attacks Beiju, forcing him to let her go. Phantom then yells at Ralph to speed things up, but the traitor complains that it's not easy at all to fight Palm, who theoretically should be much weaker. Suddenly, Fur is stabbed in the back, a treacherous blow. Debo and Kiri scream his name as they continue fighting furiously against their opponents. One of the masked enemies, however, is surprised by something. He realizes the item Fur was carrying was fake, then watches the object break and reveal a paper with mysterious inscriptions. Across the room, young Fur calls them idiots with a subtle smile. Still standing, he presses another symbol on the wall, declaring, "I think I know what this is for." The wall panel begins to crack, and the room's gears spring into motion with a deafening roar. One of the opponents immediately says he has a bad feeling, and rightly so. Then, the floor beneath them suddenly gives way, and all the enemies start getting pulled down. The masked figures are sucked into the trap's center, with no escape. Beiju's followers plummet screaming into the chasm that's opened in the floor. It's game over for them. As they fall, Kiri screams, calling out for Debo in desperation. She reaches out and manages to grab Mineru's hand, a glimmer of hope. But Ralph, seizing the opportunity, attacks Debo from behind, solidifying his betrayal. Debo yells for the girls to hold on tight. He jams his axe into the wall and tries to halt everyone's fall. Kiri's clinging to his leg, and he's struggling his hardest not to let go. The tension is palpable. Kiri pushes Mineru forward, yelling at her to go and save herself. Mineru uses the momentum and desperately swings herself towards the safe platform. Both manage to land and collapse exhausted on the ground, adrenaline pumping. But the trap's passage starts to close, relentless, leaving Debo behind. The huge mechanism's gears keep turning and the room's ceiling slams shut, sealing his fate. Debo figures out the place is a labyrinth, and Kiri quickly realizes the area has to be connected to other regions. She remembers the cliff entrances and deduces that path connects to the previous area. Mineru says, with luck, they'd find Palm, but Debo already gets that they're more likely to run into the followers. Then suddenly, a heavy iron gate crashes down, trapping the trio in the corridor. Debo, seeing himself cornered, asks, "Are we screwed?" Kiri runs to the bars and immediately blames Debo, but he denies it right away, and he screams, giving the warning. The walls are closing in. Kiri attacks the bars with her solar strike, but the attack doesn't even faze them. Debo punches the gate and notices a strange energy protecting it, so Mineru demands, "Get out of the way!" She aims her weapon and fires a crushing bullet. The projectile hits the gate dead on, unleashing a shattering explosion. Mineru thinks she's solved the problem, but is shocked to see the structure remains intact. Pressed against the wall, she complains, "The gap's already too small." Kiri also gets pissed off by the desperate situation. Then Debo positions himself between the walls and tries to stop their advance, surprising Kiri with his brutal strength. Kiri yells his name and he uses all his might to hold back the walls. He firmly states they can't die like this and holds his ground. Mineru pleads for Kiri to do something, but the knight replies she doesn't know what to do. Then suddenly a voice comments, "This isn't working." Debo reminds Kiri that since she once tried to kill him, he'd save her in danger because he hates owing favors. He turns to her and asks, "Can you save me one more time?" Kiri stares at the guy and calls him crazy for joking around in such a tense moment. She yells for everyone to hang in there and takes charge. Kiri explains the bars are protected by a mana-powered machine, and she's going to find and destroy the mechanism. She sprints down the corridor, yelling for them not to even think about dying before they pay her back. The knight scales the wall, using the crevices as footholds to climb fast. Elsewhere, Palm whips out his summoning skills, grumbling that the enemies are just straight-up killing machines. Hitting a dead end, he totally freaks out. Fur just asks himself what the hell is even in this place. He gets jumped by one of the followers and tries to beg for mercy. Palm pushes himself to keep fighting the followers, without letting up. Ralph yells, "I warned you not to let your guard down." Beiju moves in and declares, "It's all over for you. No point running." Palm launches a projectile at a pillar. The projectile slams into the structure in a gigantic explosion. Ralph pins down a follower, and Beiju yells that she can die, but not before she pays him back. Fur throws up a protection spell to block a follower's attack, and readying a shuriken blast, he tries to strike back. But one of his own allies snatches him from behind, cutting off his move. The blast fires off right at Palm. Palm, even while saving the kid, screams that his neck is killing him. Palm then just tosses the kid onto the ground. Exhausted, he watches the other followers approaching for the final attack. He turns and hits one of the enemies with his flaming staff. Palm keeps up the fight, tearing through his opponents. Leaning on his staff, he remains there, surrounded by the bodies of the defeated followers. One of the masked followers stares him down and tells him, "You're a monster!" Kiri races in, arriving in a room right in front of an energy beam, and immediately wonders if she's finally figured out what she was looking for. Her eyes lock onto the pulsing device in the center of the room, and Kiri realizes that must be the mana source for the whole structure. So she concludes that by destroying that unbelievable amount of concentrated mana, she can save Debo and Mineru. But then, a voice calls her interesting, and her opponent appears right behind her. The adversary then attacks with a devastating slash, and Kiri is gravely wounded, falling to her knees from the impact of the blow. The opponent gloats about her luck, saying, "I can just kill the other two by killing you," she screams. Kiri is the weakest among them. Even with Kiri wounded on the ground, the adversary still claims things are going her way. She commands, "Get out of my way, you follower," but the woman shoots back, "I can't do that, and I have a name too." The adversary then invites Kiri to, "Let's chat a bit." Kiri, already powering up her rising sun technique, fires back, "Bring it, because I'm a little busy." The opponent calls her stubborn and immediately launches a torrential rain of blades to kill Kiri once and for all. Kiri defends herself from the attack, but notices there are fake swords among the blades. She takes a hit from one of the blows, regretting she can't tell the real blades from the fakes. Kiri dodges, but is surprised by a new attack coming from behind. She realizes the opponent is shifting the blade's trajectory like she's using telekinesis, and is stunned by what's headed her way. The adversary launches another of her projectiles against the knight, but Kiri soon discovers it's not telekinesis. It's actually invisible threads controlling the weapons. So she grabs one of the threads with her hand. With that, Kiri realizes she can actually fling the swords right back at her enemy, but the adversary just taunts her, asking, "Did you think I'd tell you to wait?" Kiri then uses her sword drawing art and unleashes the 100 Death Slash. Her opponent, in turn, counters with beautiful sadness, and the attack lands dead on Kiri. The adversary taunts her, saying, "I knew you weren't that strong." She invites her to run and continues, "Is your ego too big to just bail?" Kiri introduces herself, revealing her full name, Kiri Fraudmane. The opponent comments, "She comes from an impressive house, must be a lost cause." But Kiri retorts, "You know nothing about me." The adversary laughs and tells Kiri, "Don't get angry, it'll give you wrinkles." She questions, "Kiri, did you know that in the world of Maple, opportunities aren't given to those born into unfortunate circumstances?" The opponent asks, "Isn't it unfair for someone to have so many privileges just because of family?" And then states, "Kiri, you aren't even talented." In a flashback, a young Kiri is seen on the ground while another girl orders, "Don't show up here again." In another flashback, Cross coldly states, "She's only here because of nepotism." Back in the present, the adversary says Kiri's group is full of talented people, with one exception. She lists, Kiri doesn't have Ralph's experience nor Mineru's combat sense, much less Debo and Palm's talent. But the knight interrupts her with a, "So what?" The opponent is momentarily confused by the response. Kiri stands up and admits to being weak, but declares that doesn't mean her adversary is stronger. She challenges her to fight and states, "I have no time to waste." The opponent calls her stubborn and says, "Miss Trash needs to know her place." The blades controlled by the threads advance once more against Kiri. Kiri prepares her moonset and executes the lunar divide. The strike freezes and destroys the threads, and the adversary despairs at seeing her threads broken. The opponent decides to resort to cheap tricks, but Kiri advances with her own attack, the 100 Death Slash. In a flashback, a man asks Kiri, "Do you really want this?" He informs young Kiri, "The Order of Knights only accepted you because of your family's influence." The knight states, "There are limits you can't overcome." Kiri then thinks, she won't be bound by others' standards. Her brother approaches and says, "When you understand my words, you'll become stronger than anyone in the world." Back in the fight, the adversary is astonished by the sudden change. She questions herself, how can Kiri keep up with her speed as they exchange blows? The opponent attacks with her devastating slash, but Kiri dodges the blow at the last instant. The power within Kiri then reveals itself as a vast universe. She prepares to use the Solunar time technique. An immense sphere of energy forms before her, and her appearance changes as she absorbs the power around her. Kiri delivers a powerful vertical slash with her sword. Then the mana source bursts into pieces with the impact of the strike. Kiri finally understands her master's words. She was the one holding herself back, but it might already be too late. Even so, she chooses to believe in her friends, and, in the end, in herself. One of the followers quickly yells to find those damn rats who got away. Fur sat beside an injured palm, wondering how much longer he could buy time with that trick. He then asks his buddy if he was sure he'd be okay, but the followers quickly spot them, yelling to catch those bastards who wouldn't stop fleeing. But Palm, in a flash, intercepts one of their attacks with his blazing staff. Then the enemy mocks Fur, saying he was terrible in combat. Fur, furious, charges forward, yelling for them not to underestimate him, and he continues the attack, repeating, "Please don't underestimate me." Meanwhile, Palm prepares to unleash another spell, holding his staff and an orb of power. He then stares down Beiju, asserting her existence, just as Fur shouts her name while charging the enemy with everything he's got. Beiju is taken aback when Palm catches her with an unforeseen strike. Palm then unleashes a massive explosion, leaving Beiju utterly stunned by the raw power. She wonders if he vanished, but Ralph soon appears, saying they were wasting time on small fry and that everything was fine. But Beiju reveals, "I've already got my hooks in him." Fur rushes to support Palm, who is gravely injured, and asks if he was okay. Fur despairs, seeing the dark blood, and screams, questioning, "Is this poison?" As they flee, Ralph informs Beiju it would take 40 minutes tops, and Palm wouldn't last much longer than that. Beiju explains that it was a lethal poison that eliminated the target, causing immense and inescapable pain. Ralph then declares he wouldn't make it much further, ordering his men to split up and find him, whatever it takes. Collapsed on the ground, Palm laments the turn of events, saying he shouldn't have asked for their help, feeling an immense burden. Fur sincerely apologizes for what happened, but Palm reassures him, saying it wasn't his fault, and if he couldn't overcome this ability, he'd die sooner or later anyway. He reveals Beiju's dagger had a teleportation ability, and this wasn't just some random trick. Palm says he will take care of Beiju, and that Fur should go after what he was looking for, and he points to a mechanism on the wall, revealing that it opened the ceiling. Fur gets the plan, realizing that solving the enigma would activate the device with mana. He promises to try and solve it ASAP, but Palm hands him an item, telling him to take his time. No rush. Palm then activates his ocular device, stating he also had important things to get done. Ralph then orders no one to lift a finger until he finds him, because he's gonna be the one to kill him. But one of the followers pipes up, "Why should I follow your orders?" Ralph gets pissed and screams back at the follower, "Take any complaints straight to your leader." Suddenly, a massive explosion catches Ralph completely off guard, barely giving him time to react. A fire attack nails him dead on, and he screams, "No way! I can't even tell where the hit is coming from." He then realizes the attack is being guided by the monocle of penetration, and sees everyone inside getting hit with no chance of defense. Another brutal attack slams into him, forcing him to desperately dodge out of the way. After the dust settles, the area is littered with charred bodies and small, crackling flames, and Palm coolly announces, "It's over." Right after, Fur announces he finally cracked the enigma, and mana is now flowing through the device. But when he turns around, he finds Palm passed out on the ground and desperately yells for him to wake up. Suddenly, the mana source shatters, and Fur wonders what the hell is wrong, realizing the flow has been cut off. And then, out of nowhere, Ralph appears behind him, a sinister smile spreading across his face as he says, "I finally found you." A wall shatters, and Debo immediately asks Kiri and Mineru if they caught that noise. Then, a massive wave surges down the corridor, and Kiri immediately shouts, "What is that?" The current slams into them head on, and Debo can't even process what the hell is going on. The force of the water drags them away, and they end up completely submerged. Elsewhere, Beiju gripes about an annoying noise, but a voice quickly presses him, "Where's Ralph?" Beiju realizes the passage is rapidly filling with water, and he mutters he was dead wrong, thinking the confident person in front of him would get out of there. That's when Ralph emerges, carrying 2 followers on his shoulders, and he claims he suffered a ton because of this whole scheme. Beiju immediately questions him about the crew he sold out, and Ralph replies they all died fighting in their own way. Ralph wraps up the job and immediately demands payment for Palm. Beiju confirms the kid is alive, but she taunts him point blank. What if I had just killed him and pretended no deal ever happened? She tosses a bag of money, saying his attitude is exactly what makes him trustworthy, and confirms the promised 100,000 mesos are all there. She tells her accomplice to grab the cash, comments it was a good deal, and then just like that, she disposes of them right then and there. Beiju stands over the fallen body, calling it a lame end for anyone who messed with Kanya, then quickly adds that it's all for the Black Mage. But Beiju immediately corrects herself. No, it's all for my master, Lord Evoke. She strikes the body on the ground, screaming, "It finally happened!" But Beiju is stunned right away. The body on the ground is one of the followers, not Palm. Suddenly, Ralph pops up behind her and shouts, "Surprise! You bastard!" Beiju screams, blasting him away instantly and regretting deeply ever trusting a guy like him. She realizes Ralph has Palm and asks, "Why play games with Kanya?" But then a projectile comes flying in. A voice then thanks Beiju for crawling all the way here, cutting down on their work. Fur watches the explosion and immediately asks, "Is Palm okay?" Ralph just quips, "Take it easy, alright?" He turns his back and shields Palm in his arms. Beiju comments that this was way tougher than she expected, while Palm immediately lays into Ralph. He thought Ralph would do anything for money. Ralph explains his choice, stating that if their side won, all that cash he fought for would be totally worthless. Ralph then declares that siding with Palm was the plan, like all along. He reveals that Palm knew Kanya would bring out her assassins, and that the outcome was already super obvious. Beiju asks if hurting Palm in the first attack was an accident, and then a voice questions, "What does he mean by hurt?" Palm stands up, claiming he's Maple's top healer, and that was just a treatment. And he quickly adds that if Palm had been actually attacked, he would have died, so he's just gonna cut the explanation short right there. Ralph thanks them for easily scoring 100 million, and then immediately declares Beiju is all alone now. Beiju promises he'll regret that decision and charges in to attack. Meanwhile, a hand reaches for Kiri, who's floating completely unconscious in the water. And then, her eyes snap open the exact moment the hand touches her. Kiri surfaces, spitting water, in front of a massive suit of armor, and Debo immediately asks, "You're alive?" Mineru also breaks the surface and questions, "Happened here?" Debo eyes Kiri and instantly concludes that whatever it is, the situation is looking really bad. Water gushes from every passage, and Kiri realizes the whole place will be flooded in less than 30 minutes. She informs them the ceiling is the only way out, but comments that the mechanism to open it has already been destroyed. Mineru spots something in the water, and then a wave shoves her aside. Debo whips around instantly at the sound, and his eyes go wide. He sees the giant armor moving on its own and stares at the light that flickers on in the ceiling. Beiju finds himself surrounded, and he doesn't waste a second complaining. This is a clone technique, a cheap and dirty trick. But Beiju is smart, and quickly realizes that most are just spell-made fakes, so he gets the picture. The real one is hidden among them. Fur is working his butt off and warns that he can't keep the technique going forever, but Beiju is already defending against an attack that came out of nowhere, and then multiple projectiles hit him dead on and explode with brutal force all around him. Fur screams, "They got us!" Then Evan grabs Beiju from behind, furious, and immediately demands, "What the heck were you thinking?" Palm, in full taunt mode, announces, "You'll never guess what we just pulled off." At that exact moment, Ralph nails Beiju with a devastating blow. Beiju is stunned by the hit and tries to fight back instantly, yelling, "No way I'm letting this happen!" Ralph holds him tight, and a powerful energy envelops them both, sealing the confrontation. Beiju glares at his opponents with pure hatred and curses them out, "You damn pieces of crap." He then decides Fur will be the first to feel his wrath and attacks him mercilessly, landing a direct hit. Gasping, Fur can barely speak. These guys are practically a bunch of monsters. Ralph lunges toward a clone, while Beiju fends off another right on his heels. Suddenly, a devastating attack known as Dark Flash is unleashed, throwing Ralph and one of the clones backward with overwhelming force. Wounded, Beiju struggles to his feet and vows, "I'm gonna kill all of you no matter what," but out of nowhere, an immense torrent of water crashes down on Beiju. He's swept away by the furious current, while Ralph clings to a pillar and murmurs, "Looks like the time has come." Beiju emerges from the shadows, stealthily, and attacks Ralph from behind. Gravely wounded, Ralph tumbles forward, while his opponent floats, victorious, right behind him. Beiju then swears, her voice filled with hatred, "I'm going to kill all of you." Ralph turns with difficulty to face Beiju. Pierced by the blow, Ralph screams in pure agony. Why does it hurt so much? Palm and Fur watch the scene in shock, desperately screaming their fallen comrade's name. Beiju sees the kid holding the staff and then she yells, Palm! But Ralph gets the picture and immediately asks where she's looking. Then he punches Beiju in the face, the impact so brutal it cracks the ground and sends her flying backward. Ralph declares he hasn't lost to the darkness, and warns that at this rate, he won't be able to fulfill Evoke's orders. Beiju counters, asserting she'll make it happen, no matter what. Their attacks clash in a massive collision, an overwhelming force. Yelling that she can't let them leave alive, Beiju declares she'll do it even if she has to sacrifice herself. Then she swears she'll kill them all as her own power begins to consume her. And then she screams Evoke's name, but Palm, cleverly, reveals she still has an arrow left. She fires, creating a gigantic vortex that swallows everything. A white-haired figure emerges from the explosion and congratulates her. Good job. Beiju reaches out to Evoke, seeking forgiveness. A colossal explosion of light engulfs the place, and when the dust settles and the light dissipates, only Beiju's weapon floats in the water. Fur immediately despairs as he realizes the water is rising fast, and it's almost at the ceiling. Debo tells everyone to just hold on a little longer, promising that help is coming. Palm then is already submerged and swims downward, holding a device with an air bubble protecting his head. He knows less than 3 minutes remain and hopes it's not too late. The device is already armed and will open as soon as it receives the exact force. No time to waste, he's got to find the shortest path to his crew, so he darts through the water. Ralph pops up, yelling the water's almost hitting the ceiling. Fur tells everyone to hold their breath, and Mineru's already counting down. Everyone dives in, holding their breath. Palm gets that the regular path will take too long, so there's only one way out. He stops in front of a giant passage deep down and decides, I'll just make my own path. He focuses up, knowing he only gets one shot at this. Then he unleashes a massive attack on the passage, which shatters in a devastating explosion. The explosion's force tears open a new path, and the current immediately pulls everyone inside. A small object drops down towards an imposing central tower, and then gears and energy rings activate throughout the entire structure, setting off a chain reaction. Palm sees the energy flowing from a device now sitting in the middle of the room. The energy feeds the mechanism, and the giant gears start spinning with unbelievable force. Fur and Mineru look up, still holding their breath. The current then pulls the entire group into a crack opening up in the ceiling. Debo and Kiri finally surface, gasping for air. Debo says he thought he was gonna die, watching Kiri lean against the edge. Minoru asks if the armor's gonna move, and Debo then calls out, "Boss!" A whirlpool already starts forming on the water's surface. Palm slowly sinks through the passage he just opened. He's losing consciousness but still reaches out as he keeps descending. Mineru and Palm descend together, swallowed by the light. She reaches him and already holds him in her arms. A new figure emerges and says, "You're pushing yourself too hard again, huh?" Palm opens his eyes, totally lost, and sees himself with his old crew in a forest. He's on the ground, surrounded by past allies on a sunny day. A past comrade speaks up, "You can rest, man, if things get tough." Kiri advises him not to push his limits, saying, "You did a good job." Palm gets that it's just a memory, but he recognizes the moment. Then he remembers he'd said he was fine and that he'd made a promise to them. Back in the present, the group's all gathered and safe at the edge of the now empty room. Palm then wakes up in Mineru's arms as she coughs up water from her lungs. He sits up and asks, "What happened? Did you save me?" Debo says it's good he's awake and tells him, "We were getting worried you took so long." Palm comments his body feels okay, and Ralph affirms, "That's all thanks to your healing ability." The young man asks, "What's up? Is something wrong?" But Mineru immediately says, "It's nothing," and gets all embarrassed about what she did to save him.